All right, you are live on YouTube.
Good evening and welcome to the August 24th, 2022 Henrietta Town Board. I would like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Here.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin tonight with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the preceding meetings? Yep.
Oh, okay. Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the August 3rd, 2022 meeting. Second.
Any discussion? Anything from the audience? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First up, we have special use permit application number 2022-031 and 032 Urban Air Adventure Park. The application was actually withdrawn by the applicant due to a conflict with a deed restriction. I don't think they'll be coming back, but just in case anybody showed up to offer feedback for that development, if you wish to speak, we will hear it. No one wishes to speak. I will close the public hearing. Hearing none, I'm going to close this public hearing for special use permit applications number 2022-31 and 32 Urban Air Adventure Park. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-034 Paula Meir to have more than 3 dogs. Is Paula here? Coming up, and please tell us your plan and a little bit about your setup there.
When I was in high school, I worked in one of the hospitals in Buffalo. I grew up in Buffalo. And I saw dogs coming in that were being prepared for research and for doctors to practice surgery on. I just did the math sitting there 49 years ago. I'm old. And I still remember those dogs. And I've always wanted to help a dog that's been through some kind of scientific research or, it's been part of some kind of hospital study. The paperwork that I gave you was for the Indigo dogs, which were the 4,000 beagles. Most of them have been placed, but there are 2 other organizations that work with hospitals and research facilities looking for homes for dogs. I have 3 dogs. They're young to middle-aged dogs. They're well-behaved. I live in what I would call a dog-friendly neighborhood. People come up in the neighborhood to, talk to my dogs, pet my dogs, whatever. I have a fenced-in yard. I submitted pictures along with it. I'm not asking for 50 more dogs. I'm asking for 1 more dog. I retired 6 months ago as a science teacher. I have 2 part-time jobs and a pension, so I feel I can adequately take care of 1 more dog. So I'm asking for 1 more, not a whole load of dogs, as somebody might infer from the application. And it would be a rescue dog, again, from some kind of science facility. These dogs are vetted, they're vaccinated, they're carefully, checked over. So there's no threat to the environment, if anybody would ask about that.
And so it looks like you're on a corner lot. Is the fence? Okay, now I see where it is. It's not on the red line side. It's on between you and your neighbor to the east.
Both the front and the back are fenced, and they're
Gotcha.
legally fenced according to the town permits.
Right. Okay.
There's a green belt on one side, and the other side, there's a section of land where there's not neighbors.
I'm just looking at the pictures more thoroughly. Any questions from other board members?
Did you all get to see the pictures?
Yes. How long have you had your other three dogs?
I've had Ava Greyhound. I've had her for 4 years. She was a Greyhound rescue. The Bull Terrier I've had for almost 6 years. He just turned 6. And the last one was a rescue and he will be turning 4. I've had him 3.5 years. So again, they're middle-aged dogs. They're not about to die in the near future. So that's why I'm asking permission.
So I think one of the concerns might be for the yard and the kind of mess that dogs sometimes, can make in a yard. Do you go around and scoop like daily?
Oh, every
weekly?
day,
Every day.
sometimes twice a day. Yes. And
Okay.
again, they have the 2 yards, both front and the back to exercise.
Okay. And when you're not at home, you said you're working part-time right now? Is
I have
that-
2 part-time jobs.
Okay. And are the dogs peaceful and quiet when you're not home for the most part?
They're peaceful, they're quiet, they're good-natured animals. They all get along. Everybody gets along. Yep.
Is there any time of day or anything where the dogs might set up to barking or anything like along those lines?
No, no. I mean, occasionally, yes, dogs bark. I'm not gonna.
Right.
they will.
Yes, no, I
Okay, but
mean,
ongoing
excessive
no.
barking, yeah.
No, we don't have that. And part-time jobs, I'm out 2 half days for one job, and the other job I do virtual tutoring for Rush Henrietta schools. So I'm
Okay, so
home.
you're
I'm in
home.
the house.
Gotcha.
Mhm. Great.
Paula, one of the significant factors when the town put a limit on the number of dogs was that we had some situation in town where they were actually breeding dogs in residential situations.
I
But it doesn't
remember
sound,
those.
yes,
Yes.
doesn't sound to me like that's the situation with you at all.
No, I remember those. And at that time I had 4 dogs and I had to get permission from the town because one was very elderly and
Correct.
they gave me permission because in a couple of months it did pass away.
Right. I
This is
remember.
not the situation. This is just to rescue one dog from a medical facility.
I just wanted to put on a record that these are rescues and not for breeding purposes. I just wanted that to be on a record.
These are rescue dogs and everybody is spayed, neutered, up to date with immunizations, obviously.
Yeah.
I've been a biology teacher, so I'm kind of obsessive about
Thank you.
vaccines.
Thank you.
Other questions from the town board? Okay, if you could move over to the table in case anybody wishes to come up. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this? Okay, anybody online? Okay, hearing no further comments, and I'm going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-034 for Paula Muir to have more than 3 dogs. Would someone like to put forth a motion?
Yes, I would. I would like to make a motion for special permit application number 2022-034 for Paula Muir to have more than 3 dogs, but I'm going to specifically say 4 dogs
Okay,
rather than
so
more than
to
3.
approve the special use permit for
Yes,
4
to
dogs?
approve it for
Yep.
4 animals.
Okay,
Seconded.
any further discussion? Hearing none, then please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations and thank you for your efforts rescuing
Thank you.
dogs.
Thank you very much. You make some dogs very happy.
Yep, all of our dogs have been rescue dogs. I usually get them as puppies because I want to train them more, so.
I
give-
usually get them as adults because I don't need to go through
Yeah.
that. But that's okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
rescuing more dogs. We appreciate that.
Okay. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep,
you are
you're done. Thank you. You will get a letter from the town clerks with the approval and you'll be all set to go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-035 Crossroads Chiropractic and Health Center to provide chiropractic and conservative care related services. Services. Do we have an applicant? Will please introduce yourself and your relationship to the application.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Dinelli. I'm actually the CEO of the company, and we have our other clinic out in Lima right now that I have owned since 2016. We've quadrupled the size of the practice over the past few years, and there's nobody willing to drive from up north down south for our clinic more than 20 minutes, it seems. So we're looking to expand up into the Henrietta region. I was looking through the area and there doesn't seem to be anything, at least conservative wise, over to the west side, especially near the Riverton area as it's starting to expand. So we're hoping to reach out to the public there, as well as to the FedEx Corporation, Cooper Vision, all those manufacturing employees that are probably going to need care there. So really, we're just looking to get this special use permit to switch it over from industrial to medicals. That way it allows us to actually treat patients in the office. Everything is conservative. There's no injection therapy. There's nothing that's going to be going in anybody's body. We just do hands-on treatments. We use decompression, laser therapy, anything that's non-invasive. So there's nothing that's, there's no bloodborne pathogens, anything like that in the office that we're going to be working with.
Now this location it's the plaza that's wraps around the 7-Eleven. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep. So this is an addition to that plaza. They just haven't rezoned it yet.
Okay. Questions from the board?
How many parking spaces do you anticipate?
I think
Using-
staff is going to be allowed to park in the back end. So that way we don't have to take any of the front end parking. But usually patient wise, we might see 4 or 5 people at a time. So that's about how much parking. We have a new patient room, a second visit room where we're going over report of findings, and 3 other treatment bays. So there physically can't really be much more than that. Plus, there's going to be 1 doctor that I've been training over the past 3 months that's already set to go into this clinic. So whenever we're ready with construction, we're kind of ready to go. And usually she can see up to 2 to 3 patients every 15 minutes, usually max. So usually not much more than that.
So you're anticipating about 4 to 5 parking spaces per hour kind of thing?
I would say at a time, there's going to be people rotating through. So usually a new patient we take up to about an hour with.
Mhm.
That with 1 doctor being there, there's probably going to only be like 1 or 2 patients at a time. Once we get into like follow-up visits where we kind of already know what's going on with the patients, we can see probably 2, 3 people every 15 minutes. So there's going to be people more coming and going during that time. You don't really need people to stay much longer than that once we already have the treatment plan established.
And what are your expected hours of operation?
So right now we have it set from 9 to 6 on Monday. I believe the same on Wednesday. 1 to 6 on Thursday and 8 to 12 on Friday. Right now we have Tuesdays where I'm going to have that clinician coming back down to Lima. We see anywhere between 350 and 400 patients a week there. So we have myself, another clinician, and this clinician as well that's going to be going to the new office. So I'm going to use her on those Tuesdays. But as this clinic expands, I'm hoping to have her there on Tuesdays as well. But we just want to limit some of our hours until we get busier.
I'm just curious about the later hours because right next door to you is a new restaurant.
Mhm.
And I just, from a parking standpoint, I see that's a, potential conflict if your hours extend too far into the evening, but that plaza doesn't have a ton of parking, unfortunately.
And I don't know if there's any way to get more parking added on from the owner of the plaza. That I'm not sure. But yeah, usually mornings and evenings for most people, they're trying to get before work or after work. That's when most people want to get in to be seen at the doctor's office so they don't have to miss time.
Right.
So that's really when we're going to need most of the parking, at least at that time, but people are coming and going pretty quick.
Sure.
Yep, I'd like to add on actually to what the supervisor talked about. I drive by that plaza every day on the way to work. And I'm sure that you've actually seen the plaza early in the morning, talking about the hours you're projecting, 8 a.m. starting, 9 a.m. starting. That tends to be a place where school buses will collect, especially if they're picking up kids in the Riverton area. They may stop for 5 to 10 minutes if they're ahead of their run. And they oftentimes will park in the existing parking spots. I didn't know if you were aware of that.
No, I'm not.
Also, if you're successful with this special permit, you're going to have additional building and operating permits that you need to obtain here before you can start construction. I just want to make sure you understood that.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
If the buses get to be a problem, just let us know and I can help you with that.
Right.
Perfect.
There are other parking lots that they could
Yeah.
potentially do the same in, but that side of the plaza didn't used to have that expansion on there, so those spaces weren't heavily used. Now that there's going to be two businesses there, they'll be more utilized, so.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe they expanded the parking lot a little bit further out to the side towards the road. I know I was asking for at least one or two handicap spots, especially for patients that are, 60s, 70s, anybody handicapped that are having trouble walking at that time.
Right.
Do you ever have a need for ambulance use?
One time in 7 years. And that was the person already came in and I had to carry them in. So outside of that, I've never had that happen.
Any other questions from the town board? Okay, same thing. If you could step to the side in case anybody wants to come up and speak. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in regards to this application? Is there anybody online? Okay. Then hearing no further discussion, I'm going to close the public hearing on Crossroads Chiropractic and Health Center to provide chiropractic and conservative care related services, application number 2022-035. You can return to the mic. Well, we haven't ruled on it yet.
Oh, geez.
Don't think us yet.
Oh, well.
Someone has to put forth a motion.
Supervisor, is this just out of curiosity, is this in a multi-use area or one of our zone districts for
It's industrial and it comes under there's a clause in there for any use allowed in a commercial area, which includes either B1 or B2. So because medical's
yes,
allowed.
industrial B1 and B2 can
So basically, in the industrial section, in the clause they're coming under, there is a clause that says any use allowed in a commercial district. So that would be a B1 or B2
yes.
with a public hearing. So that's why, or excuse me, with a special use permit. That's why they're here.
Yes.
So
But also some of our districts are
the overlay,
yes.
there is no
multi-use
overlay here, no.
Okay, and I was just wondering if this was also part of the multi-use overlay.
No, this area, and one of the things is gas stations, right now, they're only allowed in industrial zones. And our industrial zones do allow a lot of commercial. Half of Jefferson Road is actually industrial, not commercial. So like I said, there is that clause in there that allows that if it's not expressly permitted in the list of industrial uses, or if it's not expressly denied in the list of industrial uses, then if it's something that would be otherwise allowed in a commercial district, it could be allowed here. So it's not exactly mixed use, so you couldn't have, for instance, a residence because that's not allowed. Well, it expressly says any commercial use, which obviously residence is not commercial use.
And this, we would use the same criteria to apply to this special use application as we used to the previous health clinic that applied as well, the 10 issues criteria.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have someone who wishes to put forth a motion either to approve or deny?
Sure, I'll put forth a motion. I don't have any issues with health clinics in mixed retail areas. I make a motion to approve application number 2022-035 Crossroads Chiropractic and Health Center at 5152 East River Road, Suite 104, to provide chiropractic and conservative care related services in an industrial zone district. Tax account number 188.01-1-20.1, or as more particularly described in plans on file in the town clerk's office and posted online at henrietta.org/projects.
Second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Supervisor, this is an industrial zone district, correct?
Correct.
did we ask anything about, is it in a plaza or what the
It is in a
surrounding?
plaza.
Yes,
It's in a
it's in a-
plaza. There's, so again, the other tenants in the plaza, there's a 7-Eleven, gas station slash convenience store. There's an Island Wraps. I was just looking at it. I forgot what else is in there.
There's a grocery store
Shop,
planning on
shop,
going
barber.
in.
There was a veterinarian in there at one
Weird.
point.
So it's at the corner of East River Road and Erie Station Road, the northeast corner.
I wonder if it would make sense for us to quickly chat before we vote on this application, attorney-client privilege discussion.
Okay. We will take a brief recess while we have an attorney-client privilege discussion.
Sorry.
just make a motion. Yep. I'll explain it to them one later, but, okay, sorry for the delay. We'll resume the meeting. So we had just closed the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-035. And a motion was put forth to approve the special use permit and was seconded. Discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to amend the motion to postpone it till the next town board meeting.
Okay, so the motion will just be to table it.
Table it.
Yep. So there is a motion on the floor to table the resolution. Is there anyone, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Dr. Denelli, is a delay going to be problematic?
The next hearing would be, next meeting would be September 14th.
I'm trying to push it along as fast as possible because I have people on payroll right now. Over the past few months, I've been undergoing training, so I'm trying to get this going ASAP. I was hoping kind of early October. But the delay definitely makes it more difficult getting the construction going and getting signage and everything prepped, letting, the community know that I'm going to be opening up. So that's the only problem with that. Is there a reason why, if I can ask?
I think the board just wants to more fully consider in detail its determination on this matter.
In which way, I guess?
Just so basically, when considering a special use permit, there are 9 factors that we're supposed to consider. And so in looking at some of the stuff with this, we just want to go through and put that together and put together a formal resolution rather than just do a verbal like we do with some of these. Because of the catch-all it's under, and because when you look at, again, the parking is tight there. There's just some stuff we'd rather review and get back to you. So I don't see it as a major, don't read into it that you're going to be denied, just that the board felt that it would make sense to take more time and to do it as a written findings of consideration.
Okay.
Any other questions? Comments? Then hearing none, please call the roll for the motion to table.
Councilmember Safranik,
No.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Yes.
Councilmember Page,
Yes.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Okay, so we'll have you on for the September 14th. We'll continue this. It'll be tabled to the 14th. Sorry about that. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-036, Twist Jamaican Grill to operate a Jamaican restaurant with takeout meal services. Do we have a representative from Twist? Please come on up. Introduce yourself and your relationship to the project.
Yes, I'm Leighton Robinson, and I'm seeking a special use permit to operate Twist Jamaican Grill. Reason being, when I look around Enreda, there's a lot of different ethnic restaurants around here, but I haven't seen any real authentic Jamaican restaurant. And my objective is to cook, I think, authentic Jamaican food with a twist. And when I say with a twist, I mean it's different from the conventional Jamaican restaurant where they sell only like meat and rice and steamed cabbage. But with twist, you'll get a different experience where I'll be serving a variety of different vegetables along with a variety of different meats, because I'm trying to focus more on the healthy part of eating. So I'm seeking a special use permit to push forward that business.
Okay, and this is located, it's just south of the former Suburban Plaza, so you're north of Suburban Liquor. But south, I don't remember, what do they call it now? Town Center Plaza or something like that? Is that where, right, you're on
It's-
East
it's-
Henrietta Road?
Yes, it's right next to Suburban Plaza.
It's no longer called Suburban Plaza, sir. Okay. Have you ever operated a restaurant before?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a whole lot of questions. I don't know.
You have seating, indoor seating?
No, ma'am, not at this time.
What was that?
Not at this time.
Not at this time. Okay, so it's just pickup and delivery?
Right, definitely.
Okay, gotcha. And you feel there's adequate parking in that particular lot?
Yes, when I look at the parking lot, there's ample parking spot there.
Well, I live right around the corner from there, so I'd certainly be looking forward to having a new restaurant in that area. That would be great.
Appreciate it.
So right now you're only looking at takeout meal service. Do you think you'll ever have indoor seating?
Yes, as the business progresses, I'll definitely look into that.
I would suggest that we check that box then. That if you're looking to do sit down and take out in the future, then we should check both those boxes. So that way you don't have to come back to the town board for a new
Okay.
special use permit.
All right, no problem.
And it looks like there's no real, you're not gonna have alcohol.
No alcohol, that's sir.
There's really no place for outdoor seating or drive-through. So I think I will just note that we will be checking on the application, sit-down meal service and takeout meal service.
And also the fire marshal's already inspected his cooking and kitchen machinery and approved it. So that's
Good.
a plus as well.
Any other questions from the town board?
No.
Any questions from the audience? Any comments from the public? Anything online? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to close the special use permit application, the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-036 Twist Jamaican Grill. Does someone wish to put forth a motion to approve or deny? I will put forth a motion to approve special use permit application number 2022-036 Twist Jamaican Grill to operate a Jamaican restaurant with sit down and takeout meal services to be located in a commercial B1 zoning district. I'm looking at for the address, sorry.
2511.
There we
East
go.
Henrietta Road.
Look to be located at 2511 East Henrietta Road, Rochester, New York.
Second,
Any further discussion? Then hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. We look forward to you opening.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Have a good night.
I will note that if you send me an email at supervisor@henrietta.org, I can put you in touch with the Henrietta Chamber of Commerce. They can help you with ribbon cutting, grand opening, that type of stuff. So again, it's supervisor@henrietta.org.
No problem. I'll definitely do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to Henrietta. That concludes our special use permit applications. And there are no other public hearings besides the special use permits. Can I get from my first resolution?
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 19-257, 2022 to authorize bills payable for August 3rd, 2022 through today, August 24th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Anything from the public? Please come on up. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Lois
Wait
Verde.
till you're up to the microphone, please. Okay.
My name is Lois Verde. And I have a question on the way we're doing this, and maybe this is standard. But I was under the impression that the introduction of the public discussion came next, and then the additional discussion came after that, before the resolutions. Am I wrong in that?
You're wrong. It's the public discussion of and action upon resolutions, local laws and ordinances.
Is
The
that what the
additional,
Is that what the resolution is?
so right now, there's a resolution, and if you wish to discuss this resolution, you can.
Okay, so this is the normal, and then you'll have the open discussion. for
That's the
public?
additional discussion items
right.
or comments from the public.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just one question.
Since she brought that up,
Please introduce yourself.
my name is Nicholas Hirsch. Since she brought that up, are you just saying that number 5, 6, 7, and 8, that underneath that applies to the resolutions? Is that it?
Number 5 is the introduction of, public discussion of, and actions upon resolutions, local laws, and ordinances. So we are not required by law to allow public discussion during resolutions, but this town decides to. However, that discussion should be limited to the topic at hand, that particular resolution.
So the resolutions,
Let me
sorry,
finish,
I'm
please. Item number 6 on the agenda is additional discussion items or comments from the public.
so in other words, these number 5 applies to the resolutions below it. In
We
other words,
list each of the resolutions
that's not
separately
what I'm
below the
okay,
agenda.
yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yes. Any comments about the resolution at hand? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 19-258, 2022 to appoint Michelle King to the Library Board of Trustees.
Second.
Any discussion?
Welcome, Michelle. Thank you for agreeing to give your time to the town.
Yes, I'd like to say the same. Welcome, Michelle. I know the board is really excited about you joining them and becoming a part of their group.
Any further discussions? Anything from the public? And hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 19-259/2022 to declare intent for lead agency for seeker review concerning a proposed plus or minus 263,000 square foot building to be used by Energy Materials Corporation for the manufacturing of photovoltaic film and panels at the northeast corner of West Henrietta Road and Erie Station Road with an industrial with specifics zone district.
Seconded.
So some may remember, guess it's been 2 years ago now. There was a proposal to put in a factory at the corner. It's the former Delphi property. This is the western half of the former Delphi property. At the time, the developer did not have a tenant, and he was proposing what's typically referred to as a typical building. The problem with that is when you don't know what the use is, you will find that you have to put in a lot of parking spaces in case it's office place, and maybe a lot of shipping bays in case it's shipping and, other stuff for industrial, et cetera, and so forth. At the time, there was a lot of pushback because of the size and amount of parking necessary. So the developer withdrew the application until they had a specific tenant. They now have a specific tenant, and that's what this is coming forth. So any questions on it? Anything from the public? And hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 19-260/2000. I think that should read 2022. To call for a public hearing to update the zoning code with respect to special use permits, including application filing.
Second. So there's two things in looking at our town code. One of them is there's a section that is just entitled Special Use Permit Uses. What that section is specifically about is that it says that any use that otherwise would not require a special use permit that is within 500 feet of a school, was it, or park? I don't have the educational, religious, requires a special use permit. The problem is because of the ambiguous title, some people didn't know it was there. In fact, I wasn't even aware it was there until I happened to cross it. So I wanted to rename it so it jumps out at you. So developers are aware of it. Town board members are aware of it. So if one comes in that falls into that category, we can make sure, and more than the town board, it's the director of building and fire prevention and the director of engineering and planning. When they spot those, they'll know to make sure that they put in for a special use permit application. The second thing was in the town code, there was something that requires that a public hearing cannot occur until 30 days after submission of an application. The problem with that is what this town board likes to do sometimes, especially for applications that we know have opposition or are controversial. We like to actually have the at least a first public hearing prior to the what I'll call the decision date. And so that 30-day limit restricts that. The decision still has that 30-day limit because of if it's due to seeker and such, but we wanted to shorten that to 12. And where the 12 comes from is the application deadline is 33 days out before the meeting. Application deadlines are always on Fridays. The meetings are on Wednesdays. Normally it's a 2-week separation between town board meetings, although occasionally because of the way the calendar works, there's a 3-week gap, and all summer long, it's a 3-week gap. So if you assume that we're going to cover ourselves for 3-week gaps, you subtract 21 from 33, you get 12. The 12 days still allows the public plenty of time to familiarize themselves with the application. To be able to give feedback at the public hearing. And again, in those types of situations, we have that first public hearing. We rarely ever close it. Even if we do close it, as we've mentioned, we allow public discussion during the motion, during resolutions anyway. So we think that this better covers the way we operate today and allows for us to make a more informed decision by hearing the public input, the public feedback on these sooner, so that we can go back to the developer and say, hey, here's what the issues are. You need to fix this or you're going to be denied. So that's what we're looking to do. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, please call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see it. Come on up.
Okay, I just need a clarification of all that because we just ran into this problem with Planned Parenthood. Is that what we were talking about? The 30 days in between the time of the application, a complete application according to the law has to be in at 30 days prior to the first public hearing.
Correct.
Is this what we're talking about?
Yeah,
So what this resolution is doing is to change the law?
it's our local law. Yes, there is no state law that it's not a law, it's a code. There is no state law that requires it. The state law requires us to act within 62 days. There is a county law that anything for a special use permit has to go to the county planning and they have 30 days to respond. So again, that goes back to that decision date is 30 days out. But we like to get feedback prior to the decision date so that we have time to think about stuff before
that
having to make a decision.
But the 30 days isn't just for you, it's for the public as well, so that we can too also be prepared for questions and comments. And things. Is that not correct?
That is
Yes.
correct. So you have 12 days before the first public hearing, but again, we're not making a decision at that public hearing. The 30 days limit is still there. So there will be a second hearing. So you'd still have the 30 days. It just allows us to have a formal public hearing prior to it.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay,
I'm going to give you my opinion on this.
sure.
Don't go there. Because we do need the full 30 days to pull together information that, as we've seen, and as in Planned Parenthood, who didn't provide all the documentation until just a couple of days, and then complained afterwards why people were here talking about non-land use issues. But they only took 2 days before to get all their documentations in. That's not right. It does take time to get this stuff together. It does take time for people, number one, to even hear that something is happening in the town, and number two, to prepare for that. So I am not recommending that you go ahead and change this, that you give the town a full 30 days as the code is currently written, so that we all have a chance to learn about it and then respond accordingly.
So very well presented. I will note that if they do what they did last time, where they only give the full material 2 days before, under this code, they would not be able to have the public hearing. It would have to be delayed because it requires at least 12 days before the first public hearing. And again, it does not change the decision date, which is still 30 days. So even if you're not prepared at the first public hearing to speak, you would have time to prepare at the second public hearing.
But even then, even when we had the 2 public hearings, by the time you got to the second hearing, you guys had already pretty much made up your decisions.
I disagree.
I don't.
Well, but let's put it this way. Did the decision go the way you wanted?
That's neither here nor there.
Okay,
It's neither, the fact is that they had, at least 2 of them went out to a particular site, looked it over, they had ideas of how they were gonna make. Did they they had an idea. Everybody, you had an idea what you're gonna vote by the time you get here, and regardless of what arguments we bring afterwards, you've already gotten swayed one way or another. So I would suggest,
so then you're suggesting that 30 days is going to make that better?
yes, I do.
How?
How is that? Because of the fact that we are able to have the one decision, the one hearing that people are actually prepared to come in here and make a discussion based on whatever the situation is.
So I
Right.
will, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'll just say, so your experience is one particularly highly controversial subject. So I'm going to use another example, Lehigh Ridge.
Mhm.
Okay. There were a bunch of concerns brought forth by residents. We then, because of that first public hearing, we were able to go back to the developer and said, here are the issues you have to mitigate. They were able to make suggestions. They were able to reach out to the public and specifically to some of the people who made the comments. We were able to get feedback. They altered the plans. We then had a second public hearing so the public could review the changes that were in the plans. And in that case, they covered those objections. Without that ability to do the first public hearing, that we could have still done it. It would have been delayed unnecessarily. Give you another example. We just did that we did that with the development on Ward Hill. Same thing. There were issues that people had about the development. We brought those issues forth. The developer changed the development. They came back. In that case, there were still yet additional ones. We then came back for a third hearing. So there are multiple times where those additional hearings are extremely beneficial. And in some of those cases, the 30 days, again, in terms of that creates an undue thing. And if your complaint is that we come in with our mind made up by the time that public hearing is, the longer we have, the more likely, ignoring the fact that I don't necessarily agree with that supposition. And there are plenty of times where our position has changed based off of feedback from residents. But if assuming you believe that supposition, then the longer we have to set our minds, you're actually better off getting to us early and saying, here's some things you should consider when you're thinking about this. before the next meeting. So if your supposition is that you want us to not come in with minds made up, you're actually better off
Actually,
being
myself,
earlier in that process.
my point is that we need time to prepare.
Can I?
Understood.
I just want to make an observation. It seems to me that we're having essentially a discussion that should be being had during the public hearing. This resolution isn't to adopt this
True.
law. It's just to set the public
To set
hearing.
the public hearing. Good point, Don. Thank you.
But I also just want to note, just so that what you're saying isn't taken out of context. I think what the supervisor is trying to say is that this law gives us the ability to have the public hearing sooner because it removes the 30-day waiting period. The town would still have the option to delay its decision beyond that.
Absolutely.
It may,
In fact,
so long as seeker was the 30-day lead agency can sometimes be shortened, so long as it may have the option of making a decision that night of the public hearing as well. If seeker were completed and the county got back to us very quickly.
which,
But
to be honest, rarely ever happens. In fact, they almost always get back to us on the 30th day.
right, but it would also have the option of either continuing the public hearing or not making a decision, just like we did on that
Right.
special permit tonight.
Yep. So again, I invite you to have this discussion at the public hearing rather than the motion
And
calling
when-
for the
when's
public hearing.
Public hearing for this one?
It is
September 14th.
September 14th.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Supervisor Schultz? So in reference to what you're saying, I can go back to the cannabis. I came to the cannabis wanting, not in favor of it. And after having the public hearing and listening to what people had to say, I did change my vote. Because I go back to, we're elected by the public and the people were really, they opened my eyes to many different things that cannabis was, medical and just different conditions that people had and how it helped them medically. So in reference to that, I think there's a lot of motions that we come to and we want to listen to the public opinion to make the decision because that's really who we represent. And I can so that's a case with me where
Absolutely.
it did make a difference to me with cannabis because I did walk in here planning on voting it down. And after the public hearing, I did change my
Well,
vote.
that actually goes right into my into my point is that you want the public to come in here educated
Right.
and understanding, in which it takes time.
And that one
Because
was,
this is not
to be
our
clear,
job,
that was less than 30 days, that first public hearing.
but
and
it
then we had
should
a
not have been,
and we had a
because the
second
code
public-
It doesn't
Right.
have.
Okay. Anyways, I'm going to end this discussion because it's not about the call for the public hearing. You're welcome to offer that feedback at the public hearing itself. Okay? Thank you. Any further comments on the call for public hearing? Come on up.
The only thing that I'm Nicholas Hirsch again. The only thing that I would like to say in reference to this, because she brought the point up about people having their minds made up and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, it is a fact that when you're dealing and recruiting human beings from the human race, nobody basically can certainly say with any 100% of certainty what one person is thinking. That those thoughts belong to that individual. It's completely subjective. So you are right in saying that you disagree with the assumption that board members will come in with their minds made up because nobody can really say that. However, with that being said, and given the fact that human beings are not perfect, given the fact that human beings make mistakes, just like board member Bolzner said she changed her vote and she changed her mind after understanding what some of the issues and benefits were. My point is simply that nobody that serves in public office, whether it's on the town board, anywhere else, should be partial one way or the other to start with from the beginning. It should be completely neutral, should be completely impartial to start with until all the facts are in and until whoever it is that's making decisions has had a chance to review information, whether it's what member Bolzner did by going to the facility, whether it's hearing from the public, whether it's gathering information. The point is to start off with initially, nobody, on this earth should be making any type of preconceived notions or decisions at all, period. Now, again, you're right.
Okay,
I just want to say you are right. Okay.
This is a call for public hearing.
I understand that. I'm just
Okay.
making a point with regards to what
Point is made.
you said and what she said. I do agree with you that it is in fact subjective. You can't know what a person's thinking. I agree with that. But my point is, that nobody should be making up minds.
Understood. Your point has been made.
Okay,
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 19-261, 2022 to authorize the supervisor to sign the engagement letter agreement with Mui, Maui, and Robinson LLP.
Seconded.
Discussion.
It's Mui?
Mui. Yeah, I called their firm to get the pronunciation.
Pronunciations.
Any discussion? Anything from the public?
Mike Stafford, I read the resolution. I think it's missing a couple things. It's about, I think the people that caused us to get sued should be in the resolution, their names, the council people who are causing this lawsuit to be filed against the town of Henrietta. And I also think the cost of the legal fee should be in there too.
We
Thank you.
don't have a firm cost, so
Right.
because there is no approval of funds, it can only go up to the dollar amount that the supervisor is able to authorize without board resolution.
So are we gonna, do we know, have any idea what we're gonna authorize for the dollar amount?
At this point, it must be below $10,000. Again, we do not know that answer, and the details are discussed in attorney-client privilege. But if it's going for it to be larger than that amount, we would need an authorizing resolution that would have to give a not to exceed number.
Okay, and how about giving credit to the council persons who caused this issue?
They sued the town board.
Right.
So
I know they sued the town. I saw the lawsuit and I see
Right.
they sued the whole town board, but
Yep.
I do think that the whole town board shouldn't have been sued. I think the three that voted, I guess it should have been sued. So thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? Hold on, this gentleman's first. You're first, go ahead.
Since we're discussing the lawsuit, my name is Dave Stevens.
We're not discussing the lawsuit, we're discussing the authorization of the
Okay,
attorney.
I'll be back.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead.
Lois,
Yep.
can you just finish your sentence? What, I don't understand it because I didn't read the resolution. I didn't come prepared for that. So I am very interested in what's happening right now.
So we have been sued by Planned Parenthood. We need to have counsel. Councils have letters of engagement. It's a contract from the town for me to sign or engage, essentially enter the town into a contract. I need approval from the town board to do that. This does not have a dollar amount. Therefore, the maximum amount that could be spent on this would be the amount that I can authorize without town board approval, which is up to $10,000. If the legal costs estimate are determined to be greater than that amount, then we would need a authorizing resolution that says we authorize up to, not to exceed X dollars.
Okay, so this resolution does what?
It authorizes me to sign a letter of engagement with Terrence Robinson of Mui, Maui, and Robinson LLP to represent the town in the litigation brought by Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York.
So you're using one attorney to represent the entire board?
Yes, we are not being, it's a law firm. He's the lead attorney, but it's a law firm.
Okay. So this is just about how much money you're going to be able to spend because
It's not even about how much money, it's
just that.
enabling me to sign the contract so he can represent us. If I don't sign the contract, he can't legally enter stuff into court. Thank you. Mr. Hirsch?
Mr. Hirsch again, I just have one question. I didn't read the lawsuit. I know that the town was being sued from the last meeting, but considering all things considered, since I'm bringing one shortly, I would like to know, do you know exactly, I haven't read the lawsuit, so I don't know where the papers are, but, or I don't know how to get them, but that being aside, Do you know what court the town is being sued in?
Supreme Court.
It's New York State Supreme Court? Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
No.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Lisa?
Oh,
Right.
sorry. Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 19-262, 2022 to authorize the supervisor to extend the current engagement letter agreement with McConnellville. Oh, I should have asked you before. Considine, Kuhlman and Moran.
Second.
I should have gotten the names ahead of time.
MCCM. So this is the legal firm that represents us has represented us on a number of certiorari cases. And their engagement letter was questionable whether it expired or was continuing. So to make it clear, they've agreed to continue to offer at the same rates. And so we're going to extend it through the end of this board's term, which is December 31st, 2023. Any questions? Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 19-263, 2022 to commit to the purchase of one new Vector flush truck once available in 2023.
Second.
So Vector flush truck, it's basically used to flush and or vacuum out storm sewers, sanitary sewers. It can also be used to actually do hydro digging. So if there's, potential of pipes around and you don't want to get in there with a backhoe, you can actually use the truck to do that. Our old truck is rotting out. So we are planning on replacing it. We have to commit now because there are only 3 chassis left. And if we don't get one of these chassis, they won't be available till 2025. At which point the current truck will probably no longer still be able to be used. So it's an odd resolution in that it's not going to be available to 2023. It's going to be purchased with 2023 funds, but we essentially have to commit to purchasing it now. So
When would we expect or hope, well, we'll say you will use the words hope. When would we hope to take possession of this?
March of 2023.
Okay.
And again, these funds are available in the I think it says highway and it shouldn't. We're going to have to modify this. Excuse me, Linda, is it really highway or is it sewer and drainage?
Supervisor, it's the sewer budget.
Okay. So I will have to make a motion to amend this. I just noted it's a copy and paste error. It does have the right person approving it, but it has the wrong budget. So you said sewer and drainage or just sewer?
Just sewer.
Okay. Okay. So we do have the money in the budget. Well, we have the money in the fund balances. We'll put it in the budget for next year. So I'm going to make a motion that we amend the resolution so as to read that the funds are taking from the 2023 sewer budget as opposed to the 2023 highway budget.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, please call the roll to amend.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. So now we are discussing the resolution as amended, and any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll on the resolution as amended.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 19-264 / it should be 2022. Whereas childhood cancer continues to take a horrible toll on our community and the country at large and continues to be the leading cause of death for children, with an average of 30 new cases in Monroe County every year, and about 10,470 children under age 15 being diagnosed with cancer across the country. And whereas major advances in treatment have seen that 85% of children with cancer now survive 5 years and more, which is a significant increase since the 1970s, when the 5-year survival rate was about 58%. But even with those advances, it still means that tragically 1 child in 6 will not survive their cancer, and 1 child dying is too many. And whereas the town wishes to support the efforts by CURE, which stands for Childhood Cancer Association, and others to bring awareness to this dreaded affliction, to let parents and children faced with this disease to know that they are not alone, and to encourage research and funding to help fight this disease. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board declares September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the town of Henrietta, in the hopes of helping parents and children faced with this disease find some comfort from and with others who are facing the same challenges, and to call for increased funding and research towards ending or at least reducing the death toll from this dreaded affliction. Be it further resolved that the Henrietta Town Board will be adding golden ribbons and/or lights to town facilities, and encourages anyone that is able to do so to change their exterior lights to gold during the month, or at least during the week of September 19th through September 26th, as part of the Go Gold to show support for the children battling cancer.
Seconded.
So I'll also add that our wellness committee has volunteered to reach out to the Pediatric Cancer Center at Golisano Children's Hospital to see what needs there are, and to do a drive to collect some of those needs to support the kids who are currently going through battles with cancer. Any
That's
discussion?
awesome. That's really nice that they're going to do that. I think that's awesome. It's a really tough disease. It's tough to watch. We had a child at my church. It was really hard to watch, and we've set up something in her honor as well. And I think as a parent, it's got to be one of the most difficult things to go through. I can't even imagine.
I do appreciate how giving the employees in this town are, how giving the town of Henrietta is, the residents here, to reach out to Golisano. But it still feels like it's such a small thing in comparison with what happens with childhood cancer. We had a young neighbor who passed away, and the whole neighborhood, purple was her favorite color. So we tied purple ribbons on all the trees in support of her and her family. But yes, it's just difficult, and anything that we can do to support, I think is good.
It's in doing the research for this resolution, I was actually impressed that when you look at the progress, that in the 70s, it was 2 out of 5, only 2 out of, basically 2 out of 5 children would die from cancer. Now it's down to 1 in 6. And obviously, again, it needs to, hopefully can get to where it gets even better than that. But that's a pretty impressive improvement, all things considered, because it is a pretty insidious disease. So any comments from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 19-265/2022. Whereas Legacy at Erie Station has donated $2,000 towards the Town of Henrietta Summer Concert Series as sponsorship for the following concert dates: July 22nd, July 29, August 12, and August 19th, 2022. And whereas a check in the amount of $2,000 was received by the Recreation Director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Legacy at Erie Station for their generosity.
Second.
I want to thank him as well. I was able to attend three of the 6 concerts, and I think the public really appreciated it. People were having a great time, especially at the Beatles tribute, which was the last one they did. I can't believe the amount of people there and the dancing, and it was just truly amazing. But it's just a great community event to get people out. Children, I shouldn't say children, I should say people of all ages were out.
Right.
There was little ones to adult, senior adults. It was a great time, and I really appreciate that they made that donation for the public.
It's a great event, I think, every year, the concert series, and I think it's great that especially places like Legacy can contribute to that and encourage maybe all generations to attend and participate in the concerts in the town of Henrietta.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 19-266, 2022. Whereas the Summit Federal Credit Union has donated $250 to the Henrietta Public Library for a local author summer story time event. And whereas a check in the amount of $250 was received by the library director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks the Summit Federal Credit Union for their generosity.
Seconded.
Discussion?
Thank you very much for the donation. I know that the Henrietta Library really appreciates it. The generosity of people towards our library is just incredible, and it's just a testament to what a wonderful library we have.
And I do know the summertime story events are very well received and
Mhm.
very well attended, so.
Do we happen to know which local author this was?
I do not know. I know which ones are coming up. I don't know if it's one of the ones coming up or if it's one of the ones that already occurred.
Great.
And this is Adrian. It is Nikki Matthews, who is on our library board.
Nikki is a library board member. She's an amazing woman. She also had a booth at the farmers market with the book that she's written, she's got a second book coming out in September, correct?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's very exciting. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 19-267, 2022. Whereas Henrietta Pride has donated $645 to the Henrietta Public Library for the acquisition of materials by and about LGBTQ+ people. And whereas cash in the amount of $645 was received by the library director, therefore it be resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Henrietta Pride for their generosity.
Second.
So I'll note this is actually the second portion. There was at the Pride event, they did a bunch of fundraising and that this is the proceeds from the fundraising. So I think it's great grassroots movement to basically make a donation to the library so that people have an ability to read books about people similar to themselves.
And I know that this is one of the in being serving with the board, the board at the library, Adrian has mentioned that these are the books that seem to disappear more and more, and not necessarily for a negative reason, but for children whom seeing themselves in these books and have appreciate the ability to be able to read the books. So it's really important that they have the funds to continue replacing these books.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, when I've spoken to young people in our community, this was one thing that they had requested, was that that they have more access at the library to books that represented them. And this is a great way to support and extend that.
Any further discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 19-268, 2022 to authorize placement of delinquent sewer bills on the 2023 combined town and county tax rolls.
Second.
So this is for commercial properties that have failed to pay their sewer bills. The outstanding balance gets levied to their town and county tax bill. Any questions? Any discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 19-269/2022 to make appropriate transfers and adjustments per the 2022 adopted budget.
Seconded.
Discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 19-270, 2022 to approve the 2022-2023 school year crossing guard wage scale.
Second. So this is our first increase in the wages since we set them, the new tables in 2018. Any questions, comments? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 19-271, 2022 to approve the Recreation Center 2023 wage scale, part-time and seasonal employees.
Seconded.
So a lot of these, the part-time and seasonal employees are at minimum wage. Minimum wage is expected to go up again. We've adjusted the wage scale accordingly. Questions, comments? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution 19-272, 2022 to hire personnel and make the attached changes.
Second.
Any discussion? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 19-273, 2022 to declare an item surplus material from the highway department and consign on govdeals.com.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have the last resolution number 19-274/2022 to authorize the supervisor to sign a project purchase terms and conditions for Advisix Technologies to provide professional service for IT.
Seconded.
So note to the board members, we did receive word back from them that they are willing to, they want Don to redline the terms we have objections to. And so they are going to negotiate those terms. In this resolution, it's subject to attorney review and approval. So if it doesn't get to the terms, the objectionable terms are eliminated to Don's satisfaction, then obviously I won't be signing it. So.
Yeah, I'm assuming they have a form contract that probably a lot of people just sign without reading it. But when you read through it, there's some things in there that aren't great for the town. So let's see if we can get some of those out of there.
And it's one of those that this is beneficial to the IT department, but it's not mission critical. So if they're not willing to move on the objectionable terms, we just won't sign it. Any further questions or comments? Anything from the public? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranek?
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner?
Aye.
Councilmember Page?
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca?
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz?
Aye. That concludes our resolutions. Hearing no objections, meeting, just kidding. I was expecting someone to shout at me. That concludes our resolutions. Next up, we have additional discussion items or comments from the public. Mr. Hirsch.
Well, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that this will probably be the last board meeting that I'm going to need to attend because there's a deadline date of 90 days from the date of the breach of a legal issue to file a notice of claim under the general municipal law. That 90 days to go on record at this meeting and addressing Donald Young as well, who is the town attorney, will be up on September 8th. Mr. Schultz, you can expect a notice of claim to be filed with the clerk's office with an affidavit of service prior to September 8th. Now, the reason why it's September 8th is because the first official internal hearing that took place was on June 8th, which was the Board of Assessment Review, which you are all by now aware of. I also want to point out that each and every one of you has received emails, right, with attachments all through the whole process. Okay, with all the necessary evidence to keep you abreast of what you're going to get and exactly what it's going to be about. So there should be no mistaking the fact that there's anything missing. Mr. Young will be also served in addition as additional service, even though Mr. Schultz has not yet issued any type of resolution to authorize him to represent the town, as is being done with Planned Parenthood at this stage because it's not a lawsuit yet. It will not be a lawsuit until the notice of claim is filed with the town. And then from that time, from the time that the notice of claim is filed, you have 3 years, according to the statute, under the law, to bring in action. That means that if there is any additional, I want to point out, I'm going on record, additional violations of any kind that occurs within that 3-year period, those damages and those violations will be added. So that's to start off with. Okay, with regards to the last hearing, which I did not get a chance to address, each of you, with the exception of Mr. Schultz, because he ripped up the agenda the last time, that's why he didn't get one, have received an agenda from me, which I have the original copy right here. And I was going to ask if there's a way to turn on that overhead projector.
No.
There is not. Okay, that's nice. So I will address basically just the 2 items that you guys have that you've been submitted on the agenda. Mr. Schultz, you have maintained on tape and on digital recordings and on video at the last meeting that taxes, okay, do not go up if the taxable assessed value is increased.
That is correct. Do you want me to prove it?
No, I can prove it right here. According to page 2 of the manual, which you guys have received, which the state puts out, this is the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services, and they are the authority. They are the taxing authority. So let's get that straight. You are not the taxing authority. The New York State Office of Real
I'm
Tax.
not debating what you're about to say, which is that your taxes paid is determined by multiplying Your property assessed value by the
Right.
tax rate. That is
Correct. So
correct.
if the.
Let me finish,
but
please.
Okay, let me finish. You interrupted me. If the taxable assessed value goes up, okay, and the tax rate, which is true, remains pretty much the same with the exception of maybe 2 cents or whatever it is, that's not going to make a difference. But if the taxable assessed value is increased and you're multiplying the taxable assessed value by the tax rate, which may be the same or almost the same, where it's not a significant difference, then the amount of taxes collected will increase. Now, I have the tax bills. Don't shake your head. No,
You're
I've got,
wrong.
no, I'm not. I've got the tax bills. Each board member, I'm advising Mrs. Bolzner, Mrs. Stefanak, Mr. Page, and Mr. Belanca. I have the tax bills through FOIL for the last 6 years. Every single year.
Please lower your voice.
Okay, I'm sorry. Every single year, the taxes have increased. Now, I will admit that the amount of taxes that have gone up is not, let's say, a significant value, meaning that it's not like over $200. It's according to the calculations that I gave you, which comes directly out of the manual, which denotes how you calculate the amount of taxes collected. The amount of taxes that have gone up is about roughly, the difference is only $38.04 is what it went up. And the difference is that much. So and that's for the year. So therefore, it is not a significant amount, but the fact is the taxes have gone up.
You are wrong.
Well,
Okay,
I have the tax bills.
so you're a certified mathematician or claim to be one, right?
I'm taking it right out of the manual.
Okay, hold on. Could you please bring up the presentation?
You talking to me?
No, I'm talking to the town clerk. Okay, so the part you're missing is the calculation for the tax rate. The tax rate is defined as the tax levy divided by the total taxable value.
Yes, I know this.
Do you agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Okay,
that
hold
that-
on. I'm just
I
asking.
agree that that's the
Okay, next.
for the tax rate.
Hold on. I let you finish. Next slide. So the property tax paid, this is what you're saying, is the property taxable value times the tax rate,
And the property
Right.
taxable value is the
Okay.
assessed value.
right? Sure. Okay. So you agree to that statement, that math is
But
correct, right?
but it's,
Do you agree that that formula is correct?
well, it should be the taxable assessed value. That's what's in the manual for the state.
Fine. I called it property taxable value. You're saying taxable assessed value.
It's the same thing. You
Same
agree it's
thing.
the same
Okay.
thing. Okay,
Yep.
we agree on that.
Next.
Go ahead. So if the property
Next, hold on,
taxable,
next slide.
okay, go ahead.
So from a math standpoint, you agree that I can substitute the tax rate for how it was derived, right? So basically, all I've done is taken that previous formula and I took the substitution.
I
from
got
the
it.
first
Yes,
one,
you can
okay?
put in the tax, you could put in the tax
So
rate.
now it is the taxable assessed value times the tax levy divided by the total taxable value of the town, total assessed value of the town.
But it's supposed to be what you're substituting for the tax levy divided by what the total taxable value, which you're substituting for that is the tax rate.
That's
Because
right.
that's how you get the tax rate.
That's how I got the tax
And
rate.
the
Okay,
tax rate times,
hold on, right, yep. So you agree this is a legitimate substitution?
so far, so good.
Yep. Next.
I don't know what you're getting at.
You'll
but yeah.
see. Okay, so therefore, the property tax paid, because of the distributive property of multiplication, we can move the tax levy to the left outside the divisor and move the property taxable value or the tax, what did you call it? The assessed value to the top. So all we've done is rearrange those two factors, but it does not change the equation.
Well, now this is where there's a problem, because according to the state, the amount of taxes to be collected is a direct multiplication of the tax rate times the total
Which
taxable
we did
assessed
that.
value.
I'm doing math. This is math.
So
we
is that,
started
that's
with-
math too.
We started with that formula. We substituted tax rate for how it's derived. And now all we've done is switched the top two terms so that one is outside the parentheses, the other one's inside. So there's an implied parentheses in that fraction.
Can you bring back the other slide, please?
Go
so I
back
can
one
see
slide, please. So in this case, it was property taxable value times the tax levy divided by the total taxable value. All I'm doing is switching those top two terms.
See, that's where the problem is, because the state basically formula that has the taxes collected right out of the
You're-
annual.
Can he
Can
use
you
that?
please be at the microphone?
I'm sorry,
But you're a certified mathematician or claim to be one.
but you're
So you-
rearranging.
Hold on, right, so in math, you're saying multiplication, the rules of multiplication don't apply to tax?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that you are basically now rearranging formulas. Okay. Well,
I'm
you
not
are. You're
changing the
rearranging
formula.
the formula.
I
That's
am using the distributive property
Property
of
of
multiplication.
multiplication.
Is that allowed?
That's
Does it-
allowed.
it's
Yeah,
the
it's
same.
allowed.
Okay,
But that's not the calculation that the state
Hold
has
on.
directly.
it is. It's just math. Okay, next one, please. Okay. Sorry, one more forward. That's the one we just talked
We
about.
saw
Okay,
that.
so now for all the taxes we've collected, it's the sum of all property taxes paid is determined by taking that tax levy and multiplying it by the sum of all assessed values divided by the total assessed value of the town. Right? That's how we calculate, that's how we collect all the taxes we pay. Essentially, we apply this formula to every property in town and add it up,
So
right?
you're
Do you
taking,
agree?
you're taking what they call a sum.
Correct.
It's a sum.
Yep. Do you agree with that? That's all the properties we've collected? That's all
I
the stuff
agree
we've
with that,
collected?
but I don't agree with the fact that you're taking a formula that the state has and you're rearranging it, even though it's legitimate. Okay,
Okay.
I don't know
Math
exactly,
still applies at the state.
but I don't know where this is going, but go
Okay,
ahead.
you'll understand in a second. Next formula. Okay, well, actually go back one because it's at the bottom there. So the sum of all taxable assessed value is by definition the total assessable value of the town or the total taxable value, whether you call it taxable value or assessed value. But the sum of all properties that are taxable and it's the taxable portion that is assessed, that is by definition the total taxable value, correct?
According to this formula, yes. Are you
Not
trying-
just according to the formula,
Can
according
I-
to New York State.
I
That
can-
is
all
the
right.
definition of the total taxable.
So what you're,
value
can
of
I
the
ask you a
town.
question now? So
Yep.
what you're telling me is that when the state refers to the total taxable assessed value, they're not referring to just your property, that they're referring to the sum of everything in the
Within-
whole town
Within that taxing jurisdiction,
divided,
which for
but
us.
then you're
Casey,
dividing the
town.
sum of all of that. Okay, you're dividing that then by the total taxable value of your property. Is that what that is?
No, I'm saying the taxes we collect is the sum of everybody's individual taxes
Well,
summed
all right, What's the
together.
bottom one? Total taxable value. What is that?
Remember, that came from the tax rate. The way the tax rate is determined is to take the tax levy and divide it by the total taxable value or the total taxable assessed value, whatever you want to call it. The point is
Then
that
then that bottom term should be the total tax levy, is what that should. be.
no. That's not the formula for tax rate. Tax rate is tax levy divided by the total assessed value. So the point is, when I sum up and I collect every tax property in town, the thing on the right becomes an identity because it is the sum of all individual taxable assessed values divided, well, the sum by definition is the total.
Right, we
So-
understand.
So the
We agree
sum
on that,
divided by the
yes.
total
We
is
agree on
one.
that.
Okay, so if I have an identity, I can eliminate it in multiplication. Go to the next slide.
What are you eliminating?
I'm eliminating that total divided by total, which is one. That's an identity. So therefore, the total property taxes paid
That's
is
incorrect. You
equal to the
can't-
tax
you
levy.
Can't, they're two separate variables. You
They're not
cannot,
two separate variables.
yes,
You're-
they are.
You're saying that the total of all assessed value properties in the town is not equal to the total of all assessed values in the properties in the town?
Then why don't you list it as the sum on the bottom as the total instead of saying taxable assessed value? Why isn't it not the sum of the taxable assessed value? Then if you did that,
Because,
then the numerator and the denominator are the same, and then you can say it's one and eliminate it.
okay, because there is in the formula, it specifically says the tax levy divided by the total assessed property value in the town or total taxable property value of town. So it's not just the assessed values, it's the assessed values minus any exemptions. Okay?
Is
And when
that,
I-
and which
and
one,
it-
is that the one on the top or the one on the
That's the
bottom?
one on the bottom.
The
Now,
one on
what's
the bottom.
happening, and for an individual property, what you do is, as you've noted, you take the individual property's assessed
Value.
taxable, it's the
Assessed value-
taxable assessed value,
Right.
right? and I multiply it by the tax rate. Well, if I switch the levy with the tax, I have tax levy times, it's essentially your portion of the tax levy. It's your total assessed taxable value, excuse me, your property's taxable.
You're
assessed
talking
value
about, all right, I see what you're
divided
saying.
by the total for the town.
So what you're saying is that you're taking like what your portion of the tax rate is and dividing that by the total for the whole town.
It's, again, if you think about it another way, so the tax rate is the amount we have to collect divided by the sum of all the taxable values in
right.
town. The other way to look at it when I'm doing an individual, it's my property times that rate, or I can switch it that it's the tax levy, it's how much we have to collect times the ratio that is your property divided by the sum of all properties, all taxable properties in town. That's your portion of the pie.
But then how do you explain? All right, so even
And-
if that's true, which
Yep.
I see what you're doing.
Right?
By the way, I'd like a printout of that
I
if
will
you can get it to
I
me.
will email that to you.
All right, either that or I'll pick it up. If you can just, whatever, and I'll pay
Sure.
whatever the cost is for the copies. Okay, but the point here is that even if you do this, and I see what you did mathematically, but even if, assuming that this is all correct and I go over it, the fact of the matter is, according to the tax bills, okay, every time the assessment has gone up, let me finish. Every time the assessment has gone up for every year, we get a tax bill. What do you mean? We don't get a tax bill?
No.
We do.
You get a tax bill whether your assessment goes up or not. Well,
But what I'm trying to say is, but on the tax bill, okay, for every year that corresponds to that year, the taxes that are collected have gone up.
So hold on, that's not true. So I invite you to look at your tax bill, and under the tax levy column, under the town of Henrietta, in the last tax bill, look at it. It will say that it went down by 0.1%. It didn't go up, it went down. Your portion may go up,
Yes.
but not the top taxes we collect, which is what I've been saying all along. By raising assessments, we do not collect any more. You'll notice nowhere in that formula, the amount of taxes we collect is equal to the tax levy. Assessments do not enter into it. Okay?
But then.
So therefore, they have no
got-
effect
but
on how
then-
much we
But you've
collect.
got to then account for the fact, then why is it then that the taxes collected have still gone up regardless? That's a
They
fact.
haven't. Next slide.
But they have.
Well,
The
let
bill,
me
the bill
finish. Let me
shows.
finish. You're wrong. So we already talked about this one. Next slide. So this is these three things, and this has been in the town newsletter. It's been in a bunch of stuff. It'll be in again, this town newsletter coming out this month. So the top one shows our total assessed values. Would you agree that the total assessed values have been increasing over the past 4 years?
Oh, yeah, they've increased. They have
Right.
increased for sure. Because we get the
Notice-
note, we get the increase.
Sure.
notes.
Notice,
That I agree with.
notice the middle one. That is the tax levy. Would you say that's gone up or down each year?
Well, according to that line, provided that this is accurate, I haven't
It is
reviewed it.
absolutely accurate.
All right, but according to that line on that graph, yeah, it's slightly gone down. You
It's
can
gone
see-
down
You
slightly.
can see the decline slightly on the
Yep.
graph.
We've actually held it roughly flat in our budget
It's about
process.
what, 12.1%
because-
or something like that? I don't know.
No, I don't know what percentage doesn't come into it. It's, if I remember correctly, it's 4 million and change is our tax levy. It's gone down a bit each year. There's
No,
another
I'm
reason.
talking about the tax rate.
The
that we-
tax rate is defined as $1, like,
It's one, it's, I
if you
think
notice,
it's
so that's
$1
the bottom
for every
chart.
1,000 or something like
right,
that.
so that's the bottom chart. It was originally $1.40 per thousand, and it's now down to like $1.15 per thousand. So the point is, as the assessed values have gone up and the levy has actually gone down, meaning we've collected less money in taxes every year, the tax rate has gone down
But
because.
the bill shows an increase in the taxes.
Did you look to see where that increase was? Was it in
Yes,
the
I
town?
did. Yes, I did. And as you know, I've spoken with Mr. McGovern, Mr. Page, from the state. He is the supervisor.
Mhm.
Okay, at the New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services, which, by the way, took 2 months to get them to call me. Which
I
is,
understand.
you want look, I'm pretty sure you can appreciate that fact. Okay, and after and I
Believe
have that discussion on tape.
You and I are in agreement that the New York State Services, for me, it's especially the New York State DOT, we have a lot of problems with the lack of responsiveness of some of the state.
And by the
services.
way,
No
just so
arguments
that
there.
you guys know, you are not the only ones that are going to be at the end of this. The state is going to get a notice of claim as well, because they're in the soup, because it's coming from them. Mr. Page,
Right.
go ahead.
Mr. Hirsch, looking at my tax bill, I'm not a mathematical.
No, I
expert, okay?
understand.
Okay. But when I look at my tax bill, my taxes went up because the school district tax went up, the fire department tax went up, and the county tax went up. Had nothing to do with the town.
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying. There are
So,
services,
but
I
we're-
understand.
But our
Right.
answers here are, yes, your taxes went up, but the town had no part of that.
Right.
So what you're saying is it might be the fact that the fire services went up or the school
I
taxes
pay
went
more
up.
taxes for fire service than I do for the town.
Yeah. No,
Well, okay,
with
but
that-
let me
with-
say, all right,
to
can I
be
say,
fair, I just want to just be fair to the fire district. The town has multiple revenue sources. The fire district, pretty much, they have minuscule other sources. They are largely dependent on property taxes. So it makes sense that they pay more in property taxes. But
But
with
I
that
didn't
said,
mean it-
no, I understand.
no, I
just
understand.
wanna
I
come-
understand what
I
you're
just want to
saying.
come to the defense of the fire.
You're
district
saying that the
because-
source of the increase
Right.
is may not be due to assessments. It could be due to the fact that the services cost more. And if
The
services cost
school
more,
district raised its
Sure.
taxes by tax levy by 2%, if I remember the numbers. The fire districts raised it by, I think, 3% this last year, their tax levy. Again, on your tax bill, on the left-hand side, it does show you what the relative change in the tax.
well, I'll
levy
have to
is.
compare that again, but
okay.
but here's the point, but there's a separate point that I want to make. The point here is not so much even the fact that the taxes may have gone up due to assessments or not. The fact of the matter is the fact that is the unfair assessment value
Sure.
without the condition being taken into account, which we went and we spent $425, right? As you well know, because you all looked at the pictures, okay, to get a independent appraisal, which we did, and that was completely ignored. It wasn't even taken into account. The assessor was invited, okay, remember in the discussion I had with her on the 20th of May to come out
Right.
to the property and do what they call a field inventory, which is something that
I'm going to cut you off here only because we can't do anything about your
No,
tax.
I understand.
You can make that argument to the small claims assessment review or SCAR.
But you are
hearings.
the town board and you do have basically authority to speak to that person and explain that if you're not going to take the condition into account, which is what in the manual, it specifically states that condition is a very, very big factor. Because if you have a house, remember, if you,
I understand what you're saying. I don't agree with your supposition that the assessor did not take that into account. So that's where we
well,
differ.
she didn't because there's
Well-
no data to show that. And I want to say one other thing, just one other thing real quick. All of you received the printout from the state on the one sheet with regards to our property. And the fact is that the land value went up. It went up to 37,000. You all know this. It was highlighted and you got that copy. If you look at the top middle towards the right at the top, they show the land value at 37,000. They show the value of the house at 135. Now, the last time I checked, 135 and 37,000 is 172, not 182. And I want to point out that, what are you going to say? There is nothing there. They tabulated it right below it. There's nothing there to show where that $10,000 difference is.
Depending on which bill you're talking about.
It's not a bill, it's
or
the
whatever,
actual.
which screen you're talking about. So in the county system, it does not list the structure separately. It shows the land
This
value.
was the state.
Just so, again, whatever generates, again, I'm not 100% certain which one you're talking about, but I just want to make sure you understand this. And a lot of the stuff, it will show the land value and it'll show the total property value. It won't show.
This does. They added
Okay.
it together. And I've
Okay.
already tried to reach out to Mr. McGovern to explain to him that that is incorrect. And
Okay.
I just want to point out that I'm not holding the town responsible for things that they're not responsible for. I'm going to hold whoever it is, okay, responsible for whatever they did. Okay. And my point is that the assessor has not produced any proof or data that she did in fact take condition into account or anything else. And the fact is the house needs $30,000 worth of improvements. The roof is one, these are the major ones,
Okay.
you know,
No,
and
again, I
I'm just
don't want-
saying,
I don't want you to go into those details because again, we can't address that here. So you're,
well, you can certainly talk to the assessor and explain that, look, if you don't have those facts, or you haven't taken that into account, then what goes down on the tentative assessment roll,
okay,
you understand what I'm
Yep.
saying?
I do. Okay. So,
Because that's permanent and you cannot go back and fix that once it goes down. And the
by
point
the
is,
way,
if
I want to let you know something, your town taxes. We pulled up your particular
right,
property.
right. Can
In
you, I don't- can you
2020,
put it
your
on screen or?
Your,
Oh,
it was
okay.
texted to me. In 2020, your town taxes were $189, and this is public record. I'm not.
No, I
supposed to-
understand. No, I probably
In
have.
2021, it went down to $182.41. And in 2022, it went down again to $178.
Was this the town taxes
This
or
is
the
the
county?
town portion of the taxes. The total bill, which again includes county,
Right,
fire.
and state and
So
state.
theirs went up, but your town taxes actually went down. Just so we're
Well,
clear.
I'm gonna have to look at that again.
Okay,
And I apologize. Listen, I'll take responsibility, okay, if I've made any type of, let's say, inaccurate
right.
statement that is on me. That's on me. I will correct that. But what I don't agree with,
Right.
okay, and this is something the town board has authority over because they hired the assessor. What I don't agree with is the fact that there's nothing on record, written or otherwise, that shows that the amount of repairs on the appraisal and the condition has been taken into account. I want to just point out one other thing. There is a screen that she got from the state, which is a computer screen of the program that they use, RPS. Okay. And that screen shows the computer actual buttons and everything that are on the computer showing 182,000, but doesn't show anything, okay, where that came from. Okay. And then when I finally got the state printout, which is the one that came from the state, they tabulated the 135,000 and then 37,000 in land value and came up with 182 without anything in between. And that does not add up to 182, and you will have that. And that is a mistake. Now, that's not on you. That is on the state. I agree. That's not your fault. I'm not going to blame you for that.
Okay.
But what I am saying is that in the future, just to keep in mind that under the Article 1200, which you got, you're only supposed to do equalization values based on assessments once every 3 years. And the point is here that we've been reassessed 4 out of the 6 years that we've been here. That's 88% when you round it out. That is unacceptable. It's supposed to be once every 3
4 out of
years.
6 is 88%,
All right, well, okay. Marie,
67%.
all right, I'm sorry, 66% of my mistake. 66, but that's over 50%. And I'm saying that it's unfair and it's overly excessive because it's only supposed to be at the bare minimum. Once every 3 years, in which the state does what they call a value market survey. Then they have to do that for the whole state, right? It's an equalization thing, which is where you get your 100% market value from the value
Okay.
market survey. And that survey has to
There's
be,
other people waiting to talk, so I'm going to ask you to wrap this up.
I am.
Your objections.
I just want to say that that survey is then presented by the tax commissioner to the governor, okay, at the legislative session where that's presented. And my point is that's only supposed to be once every 3 years, not 4 out of 6. Okay, that is where the issue is. And I just want to go on record that I don't expect to get another reassessment next year.
Basically, that will be dictated by the market. So basically, when the market.
The market's unreliable. It's completely unreliable. You
Okay.
can't just use the market to determine
Let's
that.
talk about the housing market.
Housing market, that's.
I know, but you
But
can't
that's-
use the housing market because real estate values are not,
Okay, we're
Look, I
we're
just
gonna
wanna
have to
say-
stop this now because New York state law says we have to assess based off of market value. Anyway.
but that's once
Okay,
every 3
Mr.
years.
Hirsch,
That's
it-
once
okay.
every 3 years,
you-
not
you-
every year.
You've been talking for
I
over
just
half
want
an
to
hour.
say,
Yep,
just to make sure that you
Sure.
understand that section 1200 says once every 3 years.
okay.
Okay?
And for the record, I'm the liaison to emergency services for the town because I'm their biggest advocate. So when I use the fire department as an example, I was just trying to point out to
No,
you
I understand.
that it was the town taxes that you were upset at, the total tax bill. We don't have total control of that, only what the town is. And
Right.
yours has gone down 3 years in a row.
But my point is that let's say, the frequency of the
Sure.
issue is maybe I should restate it. The frequency of reassessment. That's the
Okay.
issue.
Okay,
It should be once every 3 years, not every year.
Objection noted. Okay,
okay, thank you.
thank you. Who wants to follow that? Come on up.
Well, now for something completely different.
All
right,
I'm
My name's Dorothy Hayes, and I'd like to address tonight Supervisor Schultz and what I viewed as inappropriate and really unprofessional behavior during the June 22nd meeting regarding the Planned Parenthood special permit use, and then your response to the board's vote regarding this decision on Planned Parenthood. I really feel like not only did it undercut the decision, but it added fuel to the lawsuit that Planned Parenthood is bringing to you. In fact, Planned Parenthood is using your comments as a supporting document for their lawsuit. Your board, Mr. Schultz, did what they were elected to do. They looked at the facts, they checked out the location, they did their research, and their concern was not just for the businesses and the families of the community, but also for the law. They were very diligent. So I thought it was totally unprofessional and unfair to slam those board members, labeling their decisions as religious and moral, publicly labeling them that way.
When did I do that?
In a newsletter and in the paper. It was in the paper. First of all your decisions should be moral. I think that should be a very standard basis. Second of all, your use of religious it came off as derogatory, implying the lack of intelligence or critical thought. And it was and I took it as sounding, that you were ignoring some of the very legitimate arguments of the legal positions of this, but also the moral and intellectuals of opposing this move. So I would just like to use this as an opportunity
Sure.
to state that. I'd like to commend the board members, the dissenting board members, all of you for what you do here tonight too is really, your patience and your thoroughness is really impressive. But for looking past, particularly with the Planned Parenthood, past the propaganda that is so out there and so easily to be digested and swallowed, for not giving into the board pressures and for following the law and for following what's best for you, for us, the town and the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will just note that, again, the comment about the religious and moral, that was being brought up by the people protesting. Many people came up and said that vote your conscience, not the law. That was repeated multiple times. And so there were a number of people who brought up the moral issues. They brought up the religious issues, which is why I said that some of that came into that decision. Appeared to come into that decision. But again, I'm supposing, because I don't know what my fellow board members are thinking unless they state what they're thinking. As far as them using my argument, again, my belief is that it was a legitimate use. If they use that as an argument to say, well, the supervisor, just as if it got approved and someone wanted to fight the denial, they would have used the people who voted against it as their arguments for it.
Fair
I
enough.
will also note that if you read the voluminous stuff associated with that lawsuit, they also brought up the comments made by those who denied it, saying that they denied it so they basically used everything said both by board members, by people at the thing. I mean, it's all in there as evidence. Now, again, like I said, to me, I always look at this as a matter of competing rights. To me, I don't see my view as immoral or non-religious. It's a different view. There is not one religion. There was not one universal set of morals or ethics. So it's a difference of opinion. We have a difference of opinion up here. We have a difference of opinion out in the audience. That's allowed. As I also stated in the thing, regardless of as contentious and emotional as a subject as this is, I thought in general, the hearings went extremely well. Now, I know their attorney was really pissed that we were talking about non-land use stuff, but we've always, since I've been involved, all 3 town boards that I've served with, we've all agreed that residents have a right to be heard, even if they're the people who are applying for the special use permit don't like what they're saying. So we allowed people to say. There were, some of the stuff some of us agreed with and some of us disagreed with, and vice versa, depending on who was speaking. I thought there was a lot of respect for the fellow speakers, even those who, were people they didn't disagree with. That very first night, I don't even think it was a public hearing yet. There were some outbursts and stuff like that. I give credit to everybody who showed up at the public hearings, because that really, I rarely remember having to reprimand somebody for speaking out of turn. And I very much appreciate the respectful approach you take. I get it that you don't agree with my stance. I get it. You may interpret what I said as condescending. That's not how it was intended. I just look at, like I said, that I get moral and ethics come into it, but in terms of when you're looking at a legislative decision, so like a zoning or a whether to enact new laws or not, those you essentially, for lack of a better way to put it, have free reign to decide how you want to do it. When it comes to a special use permit, there are a set of specifics. The law is very specific how we deal with that, and that we have to have an equal application of the law. And that's where the board differs in terms of, in looking at that. I won't say we differ on that. We all agree that there needs to be an equal application of the law. Some of us believe that by denying it, we weren't providing that some people think by providing it or denying it, that was the right thing. Again, it's a difference of opinion.
I do understand that
So,
there are different interpretations of the law, and that's why we get
Correct.
lawyers involved with this. But it was, the impression was that it was an undercutting of the board that made a very legitimate position, taking in consideration land use, but also that this is an issue that goes beyond that. This is a very unique business, right? It's not like anything else that's coming in. And so I think it is, there are other things that.
Although I will point out, U of R does business in town and U of R does abortions.
Yes,
So,
yes, they do, but they're not, they don't support and promote abortions throughout the country and throughout the world. They're not known for that.
Sure.
And that's what Planned Parenthood is
Okay.
now. So I appreciate your time again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, coming up.
Barely. I need a knee replacement.
Do you want to sit in the chair right there? That's a mic right there.
Right now. No, okay.
Okay.
As soon as I'm standing up and I can get there, as long as I'm breathing, I'm good. Okay. So
Introduce yourself.
my name is Marie Roest. What she was saying regarding Planned Parenthood, yes, I agree. People should have the right to decide what they want to do with their own bodies. I was brought up Catholic. I don't believe in abortion, but it saved my life. I ended up having ovarian cancer. Wouldn't known it unless I went to the doctor, found out, had the baby aborted to save my life and get some more information regarding what was going on. Found out when I was 18 and ended up having breast cancer. High school, gotta love it. Senior trip, out. Junior year, out. It was to defeat the purpose of immorals. Parents would disown you over abortion rights. My grandfather taught me the scruples. It's your body, do as you need to do with your body. Doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter if you're Methodist, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's your right, you're female, you have the reproductive organs, man doesn't, we do. We go through a lot of changes every month, most of us. We all go through issues, complaints. We have aches, pains, normal growing pains. If you have daughters, you know those pains. God, you know those pains. As a boy, you don't know those pains. Unless you accidentally get kicked. No one wants those pains.
It's still not comparable.
Exactly. I can guarantee it won't be. But I respect other people's wishes. I respect what you guys are doing. I just want the respect of my own body too. Because if I didn't have that abortion, I would not be here. Secondly, let's get to a different topic. So we're going to go from topic to topic today. So the second topic I want to discuss is regarding dirt bikes on the open road. As everybody knows, Mr. Hirsch and I live at Wickwine Lane. Multiple kids on dirt bikes, all hours of the day during the summer. Doesn't matter. There's no adults around. There's a guy on the end of Wickwine Lane that watches out for these kids and tells them to go run and hide because the cops are coming. The police cannot chase them, which I would want them to chase, but I would like them to stop, talk to the parents, say, hey, you cannot be riding these on the road. It's illegal. You could hit somebody, which someone almost got hit 2 days ago. Little boy, dirt bike, white helmet, green bike. Almost got hit. They held up traffic from the corner of Calkins and Brighton Henrietta, Henrietta, Pittsburgh Town Line Road, all the way down Calkins. They were going down the sidewalk, cross the street in front of traffic, go down the other side, cross the street in front of traffic, go back up, go down Blackwell, goes down to Wickwine, around that roundabout, go in the back, go back up to Fox Trail. Every day. No one seems to be able to find these kids. We found them. Blackwell. We told one of the sheriffs, I haven't seen them. I can still hear them once in a great while, but I don't see them. They still go behind that little trail area. It needs to be fenced off from these kids. Someone's going to get hurt or dead.
So, where are you asking for the fence to be located at?
There is, there's a little roundabout between, I want to say by Wickwine Lane, by the highway.
Are you talking about at the end of Town Line Road?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So there, it basically, when the throughway came in, it split that road, so it ends in a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they go behind that even, they
Right.
go further out where you have all the power lines and everything else back there.
Right.
Someone,
Yeah. So
Right away back there?
yeah,
Yep.
it's the used to be Niagara Mohawk. I think it's National Grid now who owns it, but
Backyards of Blackwell.
right.
yeah.
So a couple things, when we did the trial, was it last year or the year before for the special attention detail, we actually did, that was one of the things we had them work on, and they actually did catch and ticket 2 individuals who were riding dirt bikes. This town board has approved to make that permanent. Unfortunately, it's
not
stuck
being
at the
done.
county. Well, no,
Yeah.
there's
nobody down there. By the time I come home, I get home
Well,
at 4:30.
so just
quarter
to
5.
understand what special attention detail is, it was to hire an additional sheriff deputy who would then basically, we would provide the sheriff's office with a list of these are things we want special attention paid to. And again, during the trial period, that was one of them. Unfortunately, it seems to be stuck at the town or at the county attorneys or the county legislature. I'm not 100% certain. So I would encourage you to contact your county legislator and tell them you want it to happen, because
Someone's gonna get hurt.
I agree. It needs to be approved by the county legislature. I will say this is a problem, not just in Henrietta, but all through the county. It's on the increase. One of the things we have been looking at is the possibility of creating essentially a motocross park, a place where they can ride legally and safely, so as to get them off the streets.
But they need to transfer their bikes
Yeah.
Yeah.
via some kind of other transportation and not drive it there.
Yeah, that's good. I will be blunt. That's going to be the challenge, because a
Because-
lot of these kids don't have trailers
No,
or don't have a vehicle to pull the trailer, but at least if
not
nothing
put it on the
else,
street.
if they're getting to there and back, yeah, now again, I don't know whether that's going to happen. Part of it is based off of whether an individual donates the land or not.
Mhm.
Then there are a whole bunch of legal issues that have to be overcome from a standpoint of liability, but we have some potential avenues, but we are looking at this, unfortunately. So like one of the strange things, believe it or not, the sheriffs cannot block off the road to trap
yeah,
the
of course.
kids.
They
Yeah,
can't chase after them,
they
nothing like
can't
that,
chase.
but
I get the not chasing after them because you
Yeah.
don't want to create a dangerous situation. It just kills me that they can't even block the road. They have to leave a means by which they can escape.
we
And so
literally
what
had,
it typically requires is you have to catch them off the bike.
we have,
so
we caught
if-
3 of them.
Right,
Only one was said something too, which was on Blackwell.
right.
I actually still know the house, what I'm talking about, but I won't disclose it there. But there's 2 other kids that go there, and
Yeah.
once in a while I can hear them.
Yep.
But I can't see them because they go by so fast that
Right.
hence me standing up and walking to the podium was not fast
Yeah,
enough.
Yeah, so like I said, we are aware of it. We are working on it. It's not easily done. And again, right now, our main tool is being held up at the county. The county sheriff's office is all set to go.
Yeah, they've been
But
very helpful
for them
on
to
that.
do it, we need the county legislature to sign off on what's called an intermunicipal agreement, or IMA. And that's what we're waiting on. It's at the county. I keep pestering them.
Mhm.
Contact your county legislators because they.
Yeah, they'll get sick of me too.
They're they're elected officials. They want to hear that it's important.
'cause-
It'll help push it through. So we've got, there's at least, there's 4 that cover the town of Henrietta, depending on where you live. And it doesn't matter if you call any of them, just say you're a Henrietta resident. So that's legislator Steve Brew, legislator
Rich Milne?
Rich Milne, thank you.
Mhm.
That was the one I was struggling with.
Okay.
I don't, but if you go onto the Monroe County website, you
I'll
can
grab
find
it.
the list. Legislator Michael Udison
Sue Smith.
and legislator Sue Hughes Smith. Those are the 4 that cover the town of Henrietta.
Pretty sure
Your
yours
area
would
is
be
probably
Udelson.
Udelson.
Yeah, would be Mike
Probably.
Udelson.
But I will say that Milne's district is the districts are gerrymandered, so it is also, it's either Udelson or Milne. It's one of those 2, but
It's okay, I
again,
know how to
you can
borrow someone's
contact all
email.
4 of them. Their emails are up there.
I'm not ashamed. to
Or if
email
you
2 or
want,
3
you
or
can
4
send
times a
an
day if they
email
don't
to,
answer me.
you can send an email to supervisor@henrietta.org and I'll respond with all 4 of their emails.
Okay, I'll
So
see you in on the email.
sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Take care. Yep, person in the back there. Yep.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jessica Shanahan. Thank you for having me tonight and letting me speak. I'm here to bring up some of the misinformation that Planned Parenthood is spreading because it was in the court documents. And they were statements that were made before this board. And I have some backup material I can leave with you. One of the statements that they made, Michelle Casey made a statement twice during the hearings that abortions are safer than delivering a baby. The fact is, there's no requirement for Planned Parenthood or anyone to report medical information regarding complications related to abortion. There is no reliable source for anyone to make those claims. And that the in-clinic abortion up to 13.6 weeks is not surgery. That was another claim that she made. It is true that in the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul has changed the name, but the procedure is not been changed. It's exactly the same. So nothing regarding how they abort the baby has changed. So I printed out some documents explaining the stages of abortion in which all the in-clinic abortions are considered surgeries. So that's the way they explain it in their documents. They explain it as surgeries. So you can call this podium a chair, but unless I start sitting on it, its primary purpose is a podium. So just changing the name doesn't make a difference. I also want to compliment you on that beautiful resolution about childhood cancer. It's so important, your support for life and for children. And I don't think it's a big stretch to say that, we want to protect life no matter where and at the youngest ages, because it's precious. And
I feel that this community is a beautiful community. You're talking about the music performances and the child cancer resolutions and all the other beautiful things. And I think by putting a Planned Parenthood in the town of Henrietta, it will really degrade the community. It'll really bring up a distasteful kind of ugliness, no matter where you stand on the abortion issue. I feel that it is not something that should be welcomed. And in many other towns across the country, they've opposed it successfully because they didn't want that stain in their community. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
I just want to make one clarification. If the court orders us to overturn, enforce, or if they apply to a commercial B2 where there's no town approval necessary, Planned Parenthood would be in Henrietta regardless of what this board decides. Just so we're clear. Gentleman in front.
My name's Dave Stevenson. I'm a resident of Henrietta. I think there's some issues that might be legally related to the application. Related to the disposal of medical waste, which is a euphemism sometimes for fetal body parts. And the term waste might not be accurate either, as we'll see in this discussion. I'm going to talk about the sale of fetal body parts by Planned Parenthood. And there was an undercover video by the Center for Medical Progress, CMP. They made a video titled Planned Parenthood Testimony on Selling Baby Parts Unsealed, New Videos Released.
Can I ask you a question? Why are we going with this?
Because the application might have been falsified if they weren't accurate about.
Right,
what
but the
they-
application was denied.
Okay, so I'm just saying this is related to the lawsuit as well. Because their application might have been fraudulent if the waste disposal was not really waste disposal. That they're performing, they were hiding the fact. There's a possibility that they're following the same procedures that other parts of the country are doing. So these were undercover videos that exposed Planned Parenthood leadership negotiating the harvesting and sale of aborted fetal body parts, featuring Planned Parenthood officials' sworn videotape testimony about the sales. So if they're hiding illegal activities, we need to know it. Other parts of the country, Planned Parenthood have been involved in the sale of fetal body parts, which is illegal under federal law. So the video that's provided by the Center for Medical Progress details the Planned Parenthood officials' admissions, which were in response to a lawsuit concerning the undercover footage made by Centers for Medical Progress. The video features sworn testimony from a Dr. Dorothy Ferguson, the longtime Chief Medical Officer of Planned Parenthood Marmonte, which is the largest Planned Parenthood affiliate in the country. They signed a contract with STEM Express to sell fetal body parts, which were determined in the clinic to be usable, and Dr. Ferguson's endorsement appears on a STEM Express brochure handed out at National Abortion Federation meetings, advertising fiscal rewards and financial profits to the abortion clinics who provided fetal tissue to STEM Express. When asked if the purpose of the brochure was to obtain more potential sources of fetal tissue, Dr. Ferguson testified, "Yes, I understood that's what they were trying to do." Now, the federal law prohibits selling fetal body parts at a profit. That's to deter illicit activities that would promote, they might involve promotion of abortion or the profiteering of Planned Parenthood. The Planned Parenthood of Marmonte performed 17,000 abortions.
I'm going to interrupt you because the issue we've got here. Now, Don, I don't know if there's an ability to file an amicus brief in
My suggestion is we shouldn't be discussing the lawsuit. The
Right.
board members shouldn't be discussing the lawsuit.
Yeah.
The public's certainly free to comment on, it's public comment period, but I don't, I really don't think. we should need to
Understand.
do that.
I just have, I get it. It's an emotional subject. I get it. You have firm beliefs on it. The decision has been made. It's now in the hands of the court. We cannot discuss the lawsuit. And the point is, I don't have a desire to extend every single town board meeting going forward by hearing a bunch of allegations, especially about a Planned Parenthood that is not the one in question. I get it. They're
All right.
related. I see the person there
Should-
giving signs of disgust. But the point is, in this country, we have a basic premises of innocent until proven guilty. I don't know that, I mean, if you have allegations, if you have stuff that you have specific charges against,
I'm just bringing attention to the town board that this has been a pattern of abuse. and
understand, believe
flagrant
me, we heard
violation of
about it.
federal law.
We heard about it many times during the public hearing.
About this specific issue?
Absolutely. Yep.
What specific issue? The selling
The
of fetal
harvesting
parts?
of body parts was absolutely
Okay.
brought up in the public hearing.
All right, was it brought up that it's illegal under federal law?
Yes. It was
And then
brought up.
profiteering on the selling of body parts
Yes.
is illegal? Okay. All right, well, I leave it to the town attorneys to decide if it's an important issue to investigate. Thank you.
You bet. Yes.
I just want to say, talking about babies are people are innocent until proven guilty. The babies are innocent.
Sure.
They're unborn.
Yep.
They haven't committed any crimes.
And you are,
Could you state your name, please?
state your
Oh,
name.
my
for the
name's
record.
Trudy,
And your last name?
Trudy Pellman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lois.
Okay. This brings me no pleasure to do this, but I feel it needs to be done. But my entire speech is based on your comments, and it was made on July 18th, DNC article. Schultz saying he suspects that the 3 council members who denied the special permit did so because of religious and moral objections.
That's not actually what I said to just so you understand. You understand how reporters work. So the reporter asked me, do you think it was because of this? I said, my first response was, why don't you ask them? She said, they're not responding. Do you think it's possible? I said, of course it's possible. So she then quoted me as saying that I made that statement. I did not make that statement. She asked that. Shame on me for allowing her to ask a leading question, and shame on me for saying it's possible. I should not have. I apologize. But I did not, believe me, I would not presume to know what they said unless they actually stated it.
Well, I think it should be cleared up for the record. Yeah, because this came out. It's a public statement and it needs to be cleared up.
Right.
But I want to read this entire thing because I
Sure.
want it on the record. On May 25th, 2022, you scheduled the official town board public hearing to deny or approve Planned Parenthood special use permit request to go into the B1 retail business zone. I noticed that the rule of law was not being followed and stood up to object based on that law. There were indeed several things that were out of order. The petition itself was not submitted 30 days before the hearing. All the required information was not provided within the required time frame, including the letter from the landlord. At the time, and I'm assuming that that's why you're having the other meeting coming up, is because of this particular situation. When I stood to object based on these facts, you, Mr. Schultz, were disrespectful, rude, and downright ugly to me. Mr. Schultz, you insisted the application was submitted within the 30-day, even though you knew it wasn't. When I tried to explain, you told me sit down and be respectful. When Miss Elaine Duncan brought the subject to your attention, Mr. Schultz, you tried to mislead her and the public in the facts of the law stating, quote, I just want to make it clear, we can have the hearing before the 30-day clock. Whether we rule on it or not before the 30-day clock is the key issue. You purposely misrepresented the law. And now I understand.
would not purposely, I was not aware of that clause, which is when our town attorney made me aware of it. We moved the hearing 30 days out. Did we not? Well,
You
28
did,
days,
which
but
is my next
right.
statement. Okay, so
so it
you
was
made
not, there was no intent to mislead. I was mistaken.
okay, so you mistakenly told her.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
And then
that's how
you-
that's
you-
how it had, but just to be clear, for years, for the first 4.5 years I've served, that's how we've always done it. We did
and
not
you
require,
indicated that.
yep, we did not require a 30-day window. And, you know, the town attorney had suggested we eliminate that altogether. And, you know, again, going back to our thing, I think that we wanted the 12 because there's other, there is a requirement for, it has to be posted so many, the notices have for public hearings have to be posted. So there's a number of other things. I felt it was important to preserve that time. I believe it could be shortened from 30, but I thought it was important to preserve that time for exactly the reasons we discussed earlier. So again, there was no maliciousness, no ill intent. It was just not known to me. I've only been doing this for a little over 4 years. And I was never in public service prior to that.
I understand. But you didn't allow me to state my case before you. Had you done that, had you not rudely interrupted me and called me disrespectful, you would have known before the hearing ever took place that my objections were on point.
The problem was that you kept, if I remember correctly, and I could be mistaken here, and we can go back and look on the record, you kept stepping up and talking when somebody else was up.
No.
Okay.
Well, actually, you called Planned Parenthood. When you called Planned Parenthood, I immediately, because it was the start of the hearing, and I wanted to let you know that I was objecting to that hearing.
Okay.
And I needed to do that up front, because had I come up the 2 hours later, you'd be wondering why in the world didn't I bring that up earlier? So I needed to do that, and you should have had the respect for me to allow me to state my case. Yeah. Okay, so to continue on with my statement, we did end up, let me find where I was. Okay, so you mentioned that you did it many times before, and you did finally concede that the meeting was not consistent with the code. And later, upon the discussion of the attorney, you had to reschedule the official public hearing in June 22nd. I bring this up because this misappropriation of the law is something you do regularly. The following statement also is in contrast with your public statement, which we talked about the 3 Republicans board members of using their religious and moral beliefs rather than the law to deny Planned Parenthood's permit. So let's talk about the law. According to the Town Comprehensive Land Use Law, you are indeed responsible to look at the secondary effects of the special use permit. Quote, these processes will require an application to address potential adverse impacts on existing and future land use, including impacts on neighborhood character, and identifying mitigation measures as necessary. Also in 295-54B, it reads that the special use permit must consider, quote, whether the proposed use aligns with the vision, goals, and recommendations of the comprehensive plan. Joe Belanca quoted the town commercial B1 zone district law stating, quote, principal purposes B1 commercial district is to provide for businesses that meet the local day-to-day shopping needs of residents and visitors. Those that denied the permit concluded Planned Parenthood did not meet these criteria. Both Rick Page and Lisa Bolzner physically went to the proposed site and examined the comings and goings of the existing customers and walked to and talked to existing businesses to see how they felt Planned Parenthood would impact their businesses and how it would impact the neighborhood character. There are These are all land use law arguments.
Right, so just a couple things, just to be clear. In addition, in that comprehensive land use update that you mentioned, we specifically called out that plaza amongst others as areas where they should consider other non-retail uses for those plazas because of the large number of vacancies in those areas. So we specifically suggested that was Marketplace Mall, Jefferson Plaza, Southtown Plaza, and whatever the one that has Millennium and another. And the other thing I will just say is in terms of, I forgot what I was gonna say. I don't know. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay, though Ms. Stefanik did not consider this land use requirement at all, you sort of did, Mr. Schultz. You stated, quote, "When I look at the potential impact, I do look at, would I rather see this here in that plaza than in a commercial B2 zone district? I do think so," you concluded. You go on to state, quote, "That's the problem. Most of the commercial B2s and certainly all of the places of where there are vacancies that I'm aware of are right next to people's houses." This, sir, is not an affirming land use law argument to support putting Planned Parenthood into a retail business B1 zone. It is an argument to rezone Henrietta's B2 commercial zoning district. And just for the record, I agree you have a strong argument for rezoning the B2 district to prevent this type of medical building in the area. Based on your statements, you and the entire board have an obligation to put an immediate moratorium on the B2 zone and spend time appropriately restructuring its use. We don't want to be forced to allow a company into an area that would be a detriment to those living there. So you, Mr. Schultz, had two arguments in that statement. One, the B2 district is not a good place for Planned Parenthood. And two, there are no known vacancies in the B2 zone available.
I said none that I'm aware of, just to be clear.
Okay. Neither of these arguments is a land use reason to approve Planned Parenthood's permit. Number one, the lack of vacancy is not our problem at all. They have to wait their turn just like everyone else. And two, the fact that the B2 is not a good fit for Planned Parenthood does not allow you.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
No, no one second,
Okay.
please. The fact that the B2 is not a good place fit for Planned Parenthood does not allow you to permit them into a retail business B1 zone against the land use law.
That's not why I wrote it. And if you actually read my justification for the considerations, that's,
Actually, I did. These are quotes.
no, that's a quote. That's not, that you're saying that's right from the 8 factors?
This is right from your statements.
Right. That's not what the decision was based off. The decision is based off of those 8 factors of consideration. So, or 9 factors, however many there are. Anyways, our town attorney is saying we shouldn't be discussing this stuff because we're currently under
Let's
lawsuit.
not
So
talk about the additional obvious argument that is so clear. I'm astonished that anyone voted in favor of Planned Parenthood's request. As you already know, because I submitted this document to you, and of course, I brought it up several times in the hearing, but I'm going to reiterate it for the record.
you have another option. Instead of reading it, you can submit it to the town clerk and they will attach it to the minutes.
I want to read it. Thank you. And stated this argument is for the hearing. The B1 zone was established, separated apart from the B2 zone to allow for retail service oriented commercial businesses. It is worth noting that on its face, the code provision for the B1 zone do not include medical services. Moreover, medical offices and services are not listed as uses allowed by special permits in the B1 zone. Even though Planned Parenthood tried to use the catch-all provision B6 to obtain a special use permit, there are 2 legal reasons that the proposal doesn't fly. 1, B6 specially cross-referenced 295-15, and 2, there is contained in the 295-15 a broad limitation set forth in section 295-15L, which says that any use not otherwise enumerated herein as permitted in a B1 district is not permitted in the B1 zone. Let me remind you, Mr. Schultz, that you acknowledge that the restriction was added after the catch-all provision was made because the catch-all was causing problems. Then you proceeded to admit that you got the argument. You understood what I was saying. You go on to say, I suspect no matter what happens here, someone's going to do a section 78 challenge, whether it's you or whether it's the applicant. You'll be bringing those cases and you'll be arguing it in front of the judge. And it will be the judge's decision and not mine. Why did you say that? I'll tell you why. You said that because you knew it was a valid legal land use law argument for denying Planned Parenthood into B1 zone. And you know who else knows that? Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood also knows this is true.
Thank you for your opinions. I will note that people file lawsuits for illegitimate reasons too, and that's why they lose, so.
It is very apparent that neither Ms. Stefanik nor you, Mr. Schultz, used any legal land use arguments to approve Planned Parenthood's request. Mr. Schultz, you threw out a question during one of the meetings and it read, should any town be allowed to disallow any application just because someone might be against it? My question to you is, should any town be allowed to allow an application just because they support it? Because I believe that's exactly what you're doing. So
You're
let's
wrong, but that's
let's
okay.
review the closing statements and see who is and who is not using the law to support their decision. Mr. Schultz, let's start with you because we already used your closing statement. Your reason was there were no vacant, this was your closing statement, no vacancy in the B2 zone that you felt were appropriate. And because the B2 zone is not zoned properly, neither reason is a legal land use law to approve the special use permit for Planned Parenthood. Ms. Stefanik, you gave in your statement your religious beliefs and a whole slew of personal opinions that had nothing to do with the law, the land use law, and still you voted to approve the special use permit. I bring this up only because Mr. Schultz accused the three Republicans of using their religion and morals for their decisions. And I wonder why he didn't accuse you of the same thing. Ms. Stefanik, you did make a statement that this is a land use decision and your only argument is that you have put other medical buildings in a B1 zone and therefore, quote, I feel strongly that this would be a positive for Henrietta and that it is something that is needed and that it complies with the law. Your argument is strictly your opinion. It had nothing to do with the law. With 4 known abortion facilities within a 5-mile radius, the closest being less than 2.5 miles from the opposed site, anyone with an objective mind will conclude there is no need for another abortion center in Henrietta. For your other argument, the Supreme Court Roe versus Wade decisions proved that misappropriation of the law for 50 years didn't stop them from correcting the error. Thirdly, you provided no special law that Planned Parenthood complies with. In addition, the law requires the applicant to meet all the criteria of the law. The law requires all or nothing. None of your decisions was based on the land use law, unlike the legal land use arguments your Republican colleagues provided to support their decisions. As I previously mentioned, Ms. Bolzner and Mr. Page did their due diligence by visiting the sites and talking to business owners to determine the impact of their existing businesses. In addition, Mr. Blanca quoted the town commercial B1 zone law stating, which is worth repeating, the quote, principal purpose of a B1 commercial district is to provide for businesses that meet the local day-to-day shopping needs of residents and visitors. And I want to emphasize local because Planned Parenthood CEO stated they are putting Planned Parenthood in Henrietta because it will service Livingston County. What? Livingston County. That is not a local need. There are land use laws arguments to deny Planned Parenthood's request for the special use permit because these laws are not met by Planned Parenthood. The only decision was to deny. Do you know what I found was interesting? Even though you, Mr. Schultz, stated that you were going to listen to the town attorney, neither one of you nor Ms. Stefanik stated you asked your attorney before making your decision. In contrast, Lisa Bolzner and Joe Belanca both consulted with the town attorney before making their decisions.
So did we.
After receiving counsel from the attorney, they felt confident to vote against Planned Parenthood's request. Mr. Belanca even acknowledged in his statement that he had, quote, an obligation perhaps to also protect the residents of Henrietta against a lawsuit for which we could very conceivably not win in court. And yet with his legal discussions and considerations for the town laws and obligations, he still felt confident that he had solid legal reasons to deny the request. They all did, but you did not.
You know that I didn't visit the site? Do you know
What?
that I didn't visit the site?
You didn't indicate that you did, sir.
So I also, there's a lot of things I didn't indicate. Do you know that I didn't talk to business owners?
You didn't indicate.
Okay, so you're making the assumption
I'm basing
that
it on
because,
what was stated.
except that again, what you really need to read is the attachment to the resolution to approve. That had the arguments,
Mr. Schultz,
just so you know.
you have been maligning, misrepresenting, and bad-mouthing the Republicans. You have you owe the board and this town of Henrietta a public apology. When the majority of the town votes, whether you agree with the vote or not, it is a collective town's final decision. You stand up, you be a man, and stand with the town. You don't go around from every publication possible and give your opinion that doesn't represent the town's opinion. Because that's your job. This is not a dictatorship in which you stand supreme. You get one vote just like everyone else. You have demonstrated a derelict of duty through your behavior. You have gone from one interview to another, practically begging Planned Parenthood to sue the town. So much so that Planned Parenthood has echoed your sentiments and submitted the Henrietta newsletter as evidence for their lawsuit against Henrietta. There should be a recall vote for your behavior. If anyone is to blame for the lawsuit, it is you. You knew that Planned Parenthood had 4 months to sue the town, and yet you couldn't keep your mouth shut. You did not put the welfare of the town first, which is your sworn duty. For the above and below reasons, I highly recommend, and not only for these reasons, but because of the fact that this $10,000 for a lawsuit like this is not going to be enough. And I highly recommend that the three of you, at least, get your own attorneys. And because of this, and because of his behavior, there is a division in the group and there is a conflict of interest. So why do I say that? On June 23rd, Mr. Schultz, you knew it was a land use argument, and I know we discussed this already, but I'm going to read what I wrote. You knew it was a land use argument when you stated to the Spectrum News, quote, and this was the day after the vote, the main issue was whether a medical facility was appropriate for the retail plaza. And then on July 18th in the DNC article, that's when you state that the only reasons why they were doing this was because of religious and moral uses. Then in the Henrietta Happenings summer 2022, you wrote the entire diatribe of legal arguments that you conceded in the hearing was a matter for the judge. So what changed? Why did you change from it being a legal matter to accusing the Republicans of religious and moral reasons, and then stating an entire diatribe of your own personal opinion of the law? What happened? That's what I want to know. Whatever the reason, you, Mr. Schultz, I am concerned for you that you and Ms. Stefanik will not vigorously fight to defend the majority vote, which was to deny. Just a couple of weeks ago, when I found out the town was being sued, I was talking to Ms. Stefanik and the former board member. He was here earlier. He left.
Mr. Stafford.
Even then, though she already knew the town was being sued, she was vigorously defending Planned Parenthood and blaming the three of you for the lawsuit.
I believe what I said was, I believe that Planned Parenthood would have a positive impact on Henrietta.
You were vigorously arguing that point.
I believe that Planned Parenthood would have.
And
a
now
positive
you have a
impact on
house
Henrietta.
divided. You still have two people that are fighting against you in this lawsuit. Two of them. A house divided cannot stand. In addition, the fact that the Henrietta town, that the town of Henrietta, according to the August 17 DNC article, Schultz stated the town attorney reached out to Planned Parenthood about mediation. For what? But the Planned Parenthood made it clear they're not going to negotiate, and I thank God they're not negotiating. They shouldn't be negotiating. We should not be negotiating with Planned Parenthood and trying to make a deal with them because we have the law on our side. This attempt to cave to the demands of Planned Parenthood and possibly those in Albany, despite strong legal land use law arguments, is further evidence that you, Mr. Schultz and Ms. Stefanik, and possibly the attorney are not standing with the town's decision to deny Planned Parenthood's permit. Therefore, I strongly again encourage you to fight this thing individually. You must defend yourselves and the integrity of your own votes. And Supervisor Schultz, I am demanding on behalf of the town of Henrietta that you publicly apologize to this board and to the town for your behavior. Thank you.
Yes.
Carol Crossed, thank you so much. I won't be long, but I would have wanted to say something to the lovely woman who spoke about her own abortion, but I wanted to offer my condolences for her loss, for her child, and for her near loss for her own life. There is no abortion law that prohibits abortion to save the life of the mother, just to be clear about that. So there were about, and still are perhaps, people out front protesting with signs. There was a gentleman there who was not part or not in sympathy with our position, who was giving the finger to passersby in cars. And I just want to confirm that he was not part of our group, trying to make us look poorly. I had a very nice discussion with him off to the side and kind of calmed him down, and he and I are best of friends. So just wanted to clarify that at this point. I wasn't here for the June 22nd vote, but I did hear the outcome on the video. And yes, we are so different. We are Republicans, we're Democrats, we are people of color, we're different races, we're different religions. There was a Jewish man that spoke. I'm a Catholic. There are evangelicals, there are atheists that spoke on our behalf. We are different genders. I think all of this is what I'm saying is that we are all different. There is only one thing, if you think about it, what there's only one thing that we all have in common. And that is our humanity. We're all Homo sapiens, right? I mean, can you think of anything else we all share? We all were allowed to be born, and we share a common humanity. And so we are looking for equal protection under the law for our common humanity. And I think that's what this is about. I spoke before and talked about the indigenous Indian population. And I am a Democrat. You may have seen this ad that was in the New York Times, a full-page ad. It was signed by a number of current office holders who are Democrats. It was in the New York Times, and it was put together by Democrats for Life of America. I'm a member of that group. And I'm certainly not going to read all this to you. Most of these are the 101 legislators who are Democratic office holders throughout the country. There are a handful of congressional leaders. There is a Democrat governor of a red state. Actually, most of these are state legislators who are Democrats. And it is an appeal to the platform committee of the Democratic Party. And it basically makes 3 points. The first one says, we are concerned that many Democratic leaders support policies on abortion that are out of line with public opinion. And they go on and talk about what that public opinion is, and they give statistics. The second point is that we are concerned as Democrats. Due to this wide disparity, the Democratic Party is alienating our voters. And thirdly, finally, we are concerned about the betrayal of Democratic Party values. An extreme position on abortion rights violates our commitment to inclusivity and diversity. So I just want to say that as a Democrat, I believe in the poor, the minority. I believe in women. I believe in the LGBTQ community. Do you see where if we're stopping short and we're not including the unborn? We're actually not liberal and we're not progressive enough because we're not opening our arms wider and wider to invite other people to be part of that common humanity. And so I just want to speak to your heart as a Democrat. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And hearing none, I'm going to close the additional discussion items or comments from the public. Any committee or miscellaneous reports from the board?
Yeah, I just want to report that I attended the fishing contest, which was a partnership between our American Legion, our local American Legion, and our town recreation department at Martin Road Park. It was incredible. I also attended the Wild Tinker program. Wanted the board to know that the longstanding Russian Henrietta Health and Safety Coalition is now a subcommittee of CHS. We're writing a grant for $125,000, and I'll give you more information on that later on. Attended the soft opening of Island Raps and attended 2 concerts, and I will be going to this Friday's movie night, and the Health and Safety Coalition will have a booth before the movie, giving out the bags where people can put their medications and safely dispose of them, and other information on trying to keep our children of Henrietta healthy and safe.
Healthy and safe.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Joe?
Yeah, again, you kind of stole a lot of my thunder right there, because obviously the event coming up on Friday still needs volunteers, by the way. Event starts at 7 o'clock with games and activities, Sing 2 happening at 8 o'clock. And the youth board met last week on Monday, welcomed in some new members, and we have a new liaison from the school district as well. And as crazy as it is, they're already talking about the next Youth Hall of Fame dinner, because it's nominations are going to be happening in January, and they've got a lot of legwork to do. I thought the event last year was fantastic, and they're looking constantly for ways to make it better, more inclusive. So very happy to attend the group.
Right, thank you.
Library. I want to give a shout out to Adrian, our librarian, on implementing the no charge for overdue books. I think that's amazing. I think that's going to be really advantageous to multitude of people in our population community. Saturday, September 24th from 10 to 5 at Frontier Field. It's free admission. Meet teen authors. They're going to have about 6 different teen authors there, and you can buy the books and get them signed.
Are those authors for teens or teenagers who are authors?
They are authors for teen books.
Okay.
The library is going to be closed Saturday, September 3rd through Monday, September 5th for Labor Day. Enjoy the holiday. And a reminder of the Coloring Henrietta Art Contest that's going on. You can register your art online through October 14th. Get stuff in, guys. Give us a bunch to choose from. It's fun to look at them. It's exciting to see what you come up with. So we'd love to see your submissions. If you have problems with the proper way to do the submissions, reach out, and they do have people, IT people at the library that'll help you. And last, kind of what the others have said, I want to thank Pam and her staff for the awesome concert series. I went with a group of friends on 3 different occasions, and we had a really great time. So thank you so much.
I just want to add to that real quick, not just the concert series, but the effort to, residents have been asking for a farmer's market for years. It's very difficult to pull off because it's very expensive for farmers to come and do that. They don't have, it may not be expensive from a dollar standpoint, though it can be if they have to hire staff to work it. But it's from a time standpoint, it's a lot of effort for them to load up the truck, get the produce there. So, it was a great first start. Hopefully we can continue. This last one, we had some actual produce. We've had was it Garner Meat farm that basically they allow their animals to range freely. So they've been selling meat. I've picked some up. I think I bought some from every food vendor that's been there at
I was gonna
least.
say great
once of the trip.
cookies,
Yep.
great jams. It was just a great mixture of, it was almost like a little crafty type
Yeah.
to a little farmer's market, but it was awesome. And as you said, hopefully it'd be great if it would grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, so, great job by the team developing that. And again, special thanks to the farmers and craftspeople who participated. To the note, we will, there's a lot of people, the nitpicky stuff. Can't call it a farmer's market if there's not a lot of farmers there, or if it's crap. Well, whatever, we'll figure that out going forward, but
It's just a nice time for
it was,
everybody.
it was really well done.
Great community event.
Yeah.
Diversity Committee did not meet in July, but they met again in August and have been active at collecting some surveys and things like that as they're just sort of getting off the ground and deciding what's going to be the focus. Also working on setting up a calendar of speakers, which is very common for diversity committees to have some outside guests come in so that everyone can have kind of a starting point in order to launch off from. And we're hoping to advertise that a little bit and invite others in who might be interested in hearing from the speakers.
If I could add just also, Councilman Safronic, I wanted to thank you for the comments you made at the workshop on Monday, specific to the library article. I hadn't seen it. There was a great interview that WXXI did. So thank you.
Steve, I got one more thing. I don't know if you noticed it, but on Facebook, there was someone who was questioning about the new place to slide on Erie Station Road, with snowboards and things. And I know, maybe it was Craig, somebody responded that there's a berm at the bottom.
Correct.
But it's more I look at that and I'm wondering if we should have a safety fence or a second means to stop kids from going.
We have talked about that. yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
I
but
know,
for,
I can see it.
I know,
Airborne, they'll end up in the neighbor's yard.
my kids would take it as a challenge. Yeah. But
I'm the klutz. I'm the one that'll end
yeah,
up.
we've
across
talked
the
about
street
basically
and
using
go-
snow fences across the top of the berm. Yeah.
The liability.
Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, since we're just open talking, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the actual sledding hill was attempted last year. And the mom couldn't get her kids down it. Now we're gonna try to make some changes, but mow it a little closer to the
So
ground.
one of the problems is, and I know this from my own property, if you don't mow the grass short,
Mhm.
then what happens is it forms this kind of sponge with the snow on top of it, and you can't get down the hill.
Well, it takes a few kids going down too. You gotta
Yeah,
pack it down.
well, that's why, but that's the snow, but the grass doesn't pack that easily,
Yeah.
so we're gonna mow it better.
Okay.
The other thing, I've talked to a couple scouts who are going for their Eagle. I would love to see I'll call it a launch ramp at the top. So essentially picture a wooden slide, you climb up, it's got a flat platform with two handles, you sit down in your sled and you pull yourself forward. And it's like a toboggan slide because the slope isn't super steep, but once you're going, you would continue going well. But having something that helps launch the kids, so to speak, to get some speed going, I think that would be beneficial. So
I think we'd like to, was really trying to do something as a service for the town with as minimal of expense that we could possibly do. We had the hill. It seemed to work well, some millings for a parking lot and the berm. If we absolutely see some safety issues, we can address them. I just didn't want to throw a lot of money at this right off the bat. I have a couple of my neighbors that have this concept of Chevy Chase in the sled. And it's like, I'm not sure you've been sledding lately, but it's not quite that avenue. Mendon Ponds is just overpacked and it's a safety issue. I take my kids there and, I'm like, stop, go, don't go, stop. And my grandkids, and it's, every time I'm there, it's, I think somebody's, even one of my grandkids is left bloody. I'm like, oh, you got your teeth?
I also want to give a shout out to the artistry of Wassel and other folks who worked that bulldozer. And then, afterwards, then also did the rock hound to smooth some of that out. They've done a really good job in terms of working on that. And again, it was all town crews. There wasn't out of pocket expenses. It was all done. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some opportunity costs there, right? But there was no out of pocket costs. So as Craig pointed out, the parking lot, our millings, which we have extra from our paving programs. It was town employees doing the work. So
the dirt is excess dirt. They are going to hydrous. They're going to throw some grass seed on it in the fall here when it will grow grass. So again, not to add too much cost and expense to it. We're going to give that a shot. It is still a very rough hill. It's, it was an open field when we cut the trees down and tried to clean it up because that's where we thought a solar panel system would go. And it was a piece of property that was given to the town by the legacy there as part of that development. The town board at that point didn't feel that that was a good option. So, we kind of spent the money to clear it way back then. And what can we do with it now?
Right.
And so I'd be, let's see if it's a benefit. I think there's been a huge proponent, vocalization, people that love it, love the opportunity of it. I'm hoping it can be the safe avenue and that we're expecting it to be. Thanks.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Go-kart track is next.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Love go-
Isn't that dirt bikes they want?
No,
No. Dirt bikes are nice.
no, he's talking about it if we can ever acquire the golf course.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
What's it called? A slick track?
Yeah, I just want the ability to design a go-kart.
Right. And there's a lot of town employees who want to also design the miniature golf. So,
Go-karts.
in regards to that, in fact, Lisa, I'm gonna be reaching out to you for a couple other names because we're not getting good responsiveness. So for commercial appraisal.
I've
So-
had a couple of people asking me about the golf course. I actually have one person who's owns a golf equipment business of some kind and is interested in being the manager. So, and I also think that you're getting some feedback from some of the town people They're concerned that it might not be open next year or they might.
Yeah,
So we gotta do something there.
Yeah, we've had some discussions with the owner. I need to follow back with him. You know, unfortunately, the appraisal took longer than expected and I still don't have one yet, so. But yeah, I understand their concerns and we do want to make sure it's open if we can. We do have it in the LWRP plan, so for that work, we would be able to submit an application under the consolidated funding application and LWRP to actually do that improvements, but it would have to wait till after the LWRP plan is approved. But included in that is we can actually even apply for money for property acquisition. Excuse me.
When they do the inspections, Lisa and Steve, do they actually look at the building? Do they actually
The appraisal?
do they consider the roof
Condition.
or the condition and all that they do?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely, because they want to look at it in view of if they're giving you the money, they want to make sure that it's worth it. And so, you know, commercial, I do residential. I don't do a commercial. I usually refer to somebody else. But I mean, the appraisers are going to look at everything. I know
Okay, good.
commercial is a little different because they want to look at the value that you're, you know, the amount of money you're getting and all of those kind of things. But the building, yes, it's very important.
Thank you.
So.
All right, anything else? And hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Third.
Hearing no objections,